Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Carlisle School Committee meeting, June 12th, 2019. This meeting is being video recorded. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to kick off the meeting with public comments. If there's anyone who so desires to make a public comment. One at a time. Okay, we'll proceed right to a review of the minutes.
I made one note, and it's something you wouldn't know, but Jonathan DeCock does not go by John. Really? So could you do it's just Jonathan? Jonathan. J-O-N-A-T-H-A? Yep. That's it.
Does anyone want to make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of the date. Oh, you want to do them both?
We can take them separately if you want. May 8th.
Of May
8th. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Further discussion?
Just a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting minutes of May 16th.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of May 16th.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we move to the very exciting part of our agenda tonight, is the student showcase. Thank you all for coming, and this is going to be very wonderful. We would like to start off with Margaret Michael.
Great. So thank you very much for being here, everybody, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about athletics and to recognize a number of students with regard to athletics, as well as 8th grade health community service. So thank you very much for being here. There are some students who were unable to attend, so regretfully they're not here, but I do want to mention them nevertheless. So I'll start with athletics. With regard to cross country, Lynn Carlisle and Kevin Mayer coached cross country, and Ethan, Gina, I didn't see Ethan here. Yeah, I thought he was coming. The coaches report, and everybody I think in school knows this, but Ethan is an outstanding runner. He is a fantastic runner, to be exact, and he is 5th in the state. He demonstrates leadership skills for the years he's participated in cross country since 5th grade. So cross country was one of those sports where 5th graders could participate. So that's great, it's awesome. The cross country team has up to 100 runners. So it makes it a little difficult in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade to pull kids for other athletics on the other side, which I'm a little selfish about. Nora Moulton is here. Thank you, Nora, for coming. Also a top runner for our cross-country team and for the league. So congratulations. Nora also contributed by her leadership skills in organizing the team. So they really couldn't have managed all those kids without both Ethan and Nora. Well, 6th grade, where are you? Julianne, where are you, Julianne? Okay. So Julianne is a 6th grader. You participated in 5th grade as well, and we do anticipate you continuing in 7th and 8th. She's our youngest runner here tonight, and they wanted to recognize Julianne for her amazing speed and her grace on the course as a 6th grader and 5th grader, as well as 5th grade last year. Well, I pushed my boundaries a little bit, and I also wanted to recognize Willow Sear, and she's not here tonight. Well, I saw her in kindergarten in the PE class, and she just blew me away. We were in PE, we were on Spalding Field. She started to run, and she was around the field by the time anyone even got halfway toward her. She is just a majestic runner. She's tall, she's lanky. I've tried to steal her a number of times for field hockey, but I've been unsuccessful. Field hockey. So I've been coaching field hockey for a number of years, which I've cherished and loved. And when we were, well, it was 4 years ago, we were a little bit short players for the first time in a long time because a lot of our, excuse me, players went to the high school, like 10 of them. So I invited fifth graders to join us, and I wanted to mention Megan Fairbanks. So she's been with our team since fifth grade, and she's really brought the new players along and has done an outstanding job picking up skills, and she's really a high school ready player as of last year. Also on field hockey, Sarah Lettieri, Isabella Jaffe, and Lydia Carl. They joined, well, Lydia and Isabella joined in 7th grade, which I pulled from cross country, Lydia anyways, and they have done an outstanding job as well, and they'll be playing next year. Sarah has been with me since 6th grade, and I'd like to also recognize her for softball. She's an all-around, excuse me, athlete and a key player in the last couple of years. While I'm talking about softball, I just want to recognize Mr. Peter Gambino. He's been helping us for a number of years with our softball team, and I want to recognize the hard work that he's put in, and he's brought our girls along and has done a really outstanding job, and we appreciate it very much. Another community leader that I wanted to mention and a huge contributor to our athletic programs is Laura Eckler. She's ensured that our fields are lined and our fields are ready to play on, and that's been a little bit of a challenge. With regard to community service, let's see. Community service for 8th grade health is a project where students are asked to create a 5-hour community service project to give back to the town of Carlisle before they go to the high school or wherever their path is taking them. I want to recognize all of the 8th graders because they really do an incredible job. They embrace this project. At first they might moan and groan a little bit about it, but I think they really enjoy it. They mostly take on a classroom, a teacher that they want to give back to, or a program that they want to give back to, and they work with younger kids. We've had a number of students work with us in the gym. So I want to recognize tonight Iola Chen and Julia Smith. And Julia's not here, but Iola is. And they've worked with Maya in the library and have done an outstanding job and have gone above and beyond doing a variety of tasks. Ariana, your daughter, she's come down to the gym with Lucy Keene almost every single tutorial to work with our 2nd graders, and they adore her, they love her. They get a little upset when we ask them to go into the gym, I mean not the gym but the closets, and help us organize the closets. They're like, well, we want to hang with the kids, and kids love us, and they just have a really, I think, fun time. I know the 2nd graders do. We also have Liam Graham here, and he has also worked with my after-school program. And I'm not sure if you want to speak or not, but he has demonstrated leadership skills. He's been really, really good with our younger students, 4th and 5th grade specifically, and he's taught them a lot of skills. He's been patient, yet understands the competitiveness in our students. He's a little competitive himself, and an outstanding athlete. So I want to thank him very much. So I don't think I'm forgetting anybody, except I just want to impress upon the teachers who have opened up their classrooms, especially the 6th grade team for Homework Club. A lot of our kids go into Homework Club and help the 6th graders, and they've gone above and beyond every single solitary year, and they've done a magnificent job. And I hope they've learned and have benefited from it, and have enjoyed their experience, because it's very valuable. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Margaret, and I also want to acknowledge all of the tremendous work that you have put in over the, how many years have you?
Just a few.
And I understand that you're retiring, and you have big plans for this summer at least, hopefully?
I have some lovely plans for the summer, so
Good.
looking forward to that.
Good. Well, thank you for everything.
Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Maya Berry from the...
So I'm here to talk about our Model UN Club, which is in its 4th year. I believe I hit 35 kids this year. Different numbers of kids participate in different events. So we participated in the most number of events this year. We started in September with an event at Suffolk Law. Our main conference was MISMUN, which happens at Northeastern University in November. We won awards at that conference, so we got invited to the December Invitational Conference, so 4 students went to that. We then did Worcester Model UN, which got postponed due to snow, so only a couple of kids went to that over April vacation. We went to Bentley Model UN for the first time in March. And we participated in Commonwealth Model UN at the Commonwealth School in Boston at the end of May. And so what happens is kids are assigned a topic and a country, and that changes each conference. They work with different people, so part of it is learning to be flexible, learning to work with your partner. They research their issue and they create a position paper. And then once they get to the actual conference, the day is spent negotiating and collaborating and talking and working with kids from all different schools. We actually have 5th graders this year too, so it's a 5th through 8th club. And it's to excel in Model UN means that you are a great public speaker, that you're confident, that you know how to work well with other people, because a lot of it is about achieving consensus around an issue. And each committee only has 4 awards to be given out, and typically there's only 5 to maybe 8 committees at a conference. So the fact that we keep winning awards is pretty spectacular. And so we've been recognized this year for best position papers, for best negotiators, which is pretty self-explanatory, and also best delegate, which is the most prestigious prize, and that sort of represents a delegate, or they work in pairs. So delegates who exemplify all of those qualities rolled into one. So some of the students are here tonight, and some are not. So I'm going to read all of their names, and those who are here, you can stand. So Lucas Lee, Nora Moulton, Abby Kalkstein, Haley Hicks, Natalie Judko, Madeline Ho, Maya Lennox, Alexander Stroll, Alexin Rivier, Darian Kosick, Jason Lang, and Izzy Neal. So as you can see also, there's a lot of 8th graders. A lot of them have been doing this since 6th grade. Some joined this year. But they have been a great source of leadership and mentoring new delegates. So I had a huge group of 6th graders come in this year. A lot of these guys took those 6th graders under their wings, so I think we're going to be okay next year.
Wow, that's
I want to thank all of you for your participation and your hard work, and they go home and write position papers on top of their homework and turn them in voluntarily, and that continues to blow me away. So they are wonderful, and it is a pleasure to work with them.
That's fantastic. That's really great. Those are some really valuable skills that you're learning through participation in this club. It's fantastic. I hope you guys all had a good time in addition to learning all those valuable skills. And congratulations on your awards. Okay, Miss Valerie Tomford.
I believe Maggie and Lucas are going to speak a little bit first about all of the music department's achievements for the year.
Great.
Should be all set, Matt. You just give it a second.
Oh, right.
Hopefully. There.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucas. I am in 8th grade. I am a member of the concert and jazz bands here at school, and I play the trumpet.
My name is Maggie Coxstein. I play the trombone, and I'm also a member of the concert and jazz band. So this is a collection of the different performances throughout the year. In the fall, the band participated in the pep band at the CCHS football game, a band performance concert. Both band and choir went to see the local Council on Aging for Carlisle and perform around the holidays. There was a community benefit concert as well, which the jazz band participated in to raise money for the new band room, as well as piano duets in a concert. In the winter, we had a December band and chorus concert series as well as the Concord Carlisle Jazz Night, in which we had a clinician come in and work with the jazz bands, and then we gave a joint performance with the Concord bands. The Council on Aging, we gave another performance in the folk dance club, as well as some selected singers from the choirs. Both band and choir had some attendees of the Junior District Festival, which is an audition group that meets in the winter. In the spring, we had an overnight trip to WPI, and we also performed at Mechanics Hall after working with a clinician there for a day. Band went to the MICA Festival, and both band and choir members participated in the MICA Solo and Ensemble Festival, both of which you go perform for an award and a clinician with a judge, as well as the Concord Women's Chorus performance. The Concord Carlisle Honor Band was for select members, grades 4 through 8 in band, in both Concord and Carlisle. We participated in the local Memorial Day Parade and Assembly, the Race Amity Picnic, and as well as soon-to-come graduation.
All right, so for participation, this year we had over 175 students in grades 4 through 8. In chorus, we had over 150 students in that same category. For awards at the Junior District Festival, we had 8 students representing Carlisle in the band and chorus. In the MICA Festival, the symphonic band and concert bands both achieved a silver medal. At the MICA Solo and Ensemble Festival, there were 24 total participants in 20 solos and or ensembles. We achieved a total of 13 gold medals, 6 silver medals, and 1 bronze medal. And at the Concord Carlisle Honor Band, we had 23 Carlisle students that were accepted.
And going back to the MICA Solo and Ensemble Festival, at that festival you can win one of 3 awards. And when you win a gold medal, 3 performers for each judge who won a gold medal are selected to perform at an honor concert. So Natalie Dudko and Madeline Ho, which are 8th graders in our choir, were selected to perform that honor concert, and they're going to perform that piece for us now.
And they will be singing a duet by the opera composer Rossini called Duetto Buffo de Due Gatte. And I don't think you're going to need a translation. Enjoy.
little cat fight that. You're both very talented. Thank you so much. Do we have any other performances tonight or any other student presentations?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for a wonderful presentation. Do you have anything to add?
No, you just continue to amaze us.
Hi, David. Come on in.
Good time. No, I think I would just say we've had a great athletically, a lot of participation this year, and our teams have done really well. And our coaches and our athletic director have done a great job, sometimes against adverse conditions with the field and all, so that was wonderful. The Model UN is always amazing, as is our art program, but I noticed a number of great awards coming across. And the band and chorus have done, we saw a list of all those performances, they have done an amazing job. And whether it's the Council on Aging, or whether it's the solos, or the duets, or whether it's the fundraisers, I think we always rely on them to be there and provide a little background music and a little ambiance, whatever the event. And I just want to say thank you for all of that. We appreciate it. So congratulations, everybody. Have a great year.
And thank you, Valerie and Kevin, both of you, for identifying all of these great opportunities for the students to showcase their talents and to participate in. It was a lot this year, a lot going on. Thanks to you guys. Thank you. Okay, so, this evening we have with us Lori Bruce. Good evening. Lori.
I can give a little segue as people leave. Lori, this is no reflection on you, but everyone check out when you leave the room, right as you get introduced. We thought it was going to be a surprise, Lori.
You're not a loud crowd, Lori.
I had a clear room.
Absolutely. So maybe I'll just jump in. So this year, everyone knows this spring, we started a search for our new Director of Student Support Services. We brought a committee together made up of school committee members, administration, teachers, parents, and we scoured the globe looking for the person we thought was going to be the right fit to be our new Student Support Director. And luckily we came across Lori. So Lori comes to us not from a traditional path to the position of Director of Student Support Services. She was worked in the private sector, and most recently she's been, with a little hiatus to go to England and run a school in England, she's been the principal of the Milestone School, where her specialties, I have a list of your specialties are. Her areas of expertise include language-based learning disabilities, anxiety disorders, autism spectrum disorders, and attention deficit disorders. So it's my pleasure to introduce Lori Bruce to the committee, hopefully to have your approval to join us and start in the position for July 1st of the summer. Yeah.
Come on up.
You can
I
say a
just want to
little.
say thank you. I'm very much looking forward to the position. I'm very much looking forward to working with Jim, and Matt, and Sue, and Dennis, who I don't think is here tonight. But I'm very excited for the new position, and I will be here soon. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, we're excited too. Some of the feedback that I've heard from people who have worked directly with you is that you are very hands-on in getting to know students and in collaborating with educators and families. So that's something that we value here too. So Lori has agreed to sign on with us, and tonight it's on our agenda to vote to approve Lori Bruce as Director of Student Support Services.
I'd like to make a motion that we vote to approve Lori Bruce as the new Director of Student Services.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Congratulations. You're
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Lori. They only asked you to perform one song.
In hindsight, I probably should have said something like before, exciting to make everyone interested in
graduation speech.
Well, it's good, and we also have, I think everybody here does know, but we've engaged West Ed to do an eval of our current program, so it's a great baseline, I think, from my view as a consumer of SPED in this school, taking a third-party look at the whole program and then getting a fresh face in to kind of with a different viewpoint, I think it's going to be very positive for our internal growth to really examine the whole model. So I certainly look forward to it.
Welcome.
Welcome,
You're welcome to
welcome.
stay. Or you can do what everyone else
Hang out
does, leave right after the room.
I thought I'd stay for Jay. How's that?
Sounds good.
I like your house.
Wow, okay, that's
Hey, that's good.
a lot.
Wow.
We need to recalibrate that.
I'm not a huge hockey fan, so we're good.
Okay, well then we'll move on to item C, Carlisle Education Foundation.
Hi, Sarah Wilson from the Carlisle Education Foundation. Just wanted to give a quick update that bids have gone out for work for the Performing Arts Studio. And it is our belief that we have to ask the school committee for agreement that you will sign contracts with the contractors when they come in. And so I am here to ask that you sign contracts with the contractors. And Sue Gray and our treasurer are in touch about payments
What's the timeline? So we're
over the summer.
we're getting bids now?
We're getting bids now. Bids close in about 3 weeks.
So the walkthrough was today.
Yep.
The subcontractor bids are due the 26th. The final bids are due
First, yeah.
in the first week of July. And then I'm assuming work will go forward after the 4th.
And what's the process for selection once all the bids are received?
Well, it's usually the most diligent, cost-effective, but we'll work with Justin Humphreys, who is with the architect firm, and CEF and Jim, and we'll review them. And I'm expecting that they kind of know who is going to be out there to bid for the project.
So it's going to be a collective review process with that, including the school and CEF and who else did you say? The town?
The architect.
Yeah, the architects are overseeing the.
Okay.
And they have the municipality and they do this work with the.
And when would we be
fire station.
ready to sign the contract? What's the timeline for that?
So it would hopefully be early July.
Okay,
Sometime
early July.
soon after the
So what
Sometime right after the
so what you're looking for tonight would be a vote from the school committee.
Yes, please.
To allow
Someone from
to
school
enter
committee.
into the agreement. Okay.
What do we have to vote on? We have to vote to approve it?
We have to vote to allow someone from the school committee to enter into the agreement. Contract.
Really?
Do we?
That doesn't sound right to me.
I
We have
think,
to do that.
TBA indicated that,
right, I mean,
that because the CEF cannot sign the
Right, but
contracts.
isn't the school
But
taking it over? You're taking it over.
we are, and quite often I sign contracts, but
So why do we need school committee to sign?
I think because it's a school, not to sign them per se, but to approve
To approve.
that contracts will be signed.
Oh, we should just
By-
approve you to sign.
To approve
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
contract be
Yeah.
signed by Jim
Yeah.
Yes,
or Sue?
Yeah.
Okay.
But how is that different than any other thing you sign all the time?
It was some recommendation by Justin Humphreys with the architect
Okay.
firm.
I think it's because of the fact that it's the CEF that's funding, that it's not a direct.
Okay, fair enough. I defer to their knowledge. I'm gonna take that motion.
Okay.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we, Sarah, give me the words. The school committee authorize Susan Prey to sign construction contracts for the completion of the music room.
Performance studio.
Performance arts studio. I didn't call it the mistake room. I just can't call it that.
Can't call it that.
That's my motion.
Taking the mistake out of the mistake room.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Thank
Okay, so, item D, Richard.
Can I ask one question before you jump? Is there any intersection of this project with the elevator fix that's going to be a problem?
There's not that we're
Okay.
There's not a construction intersection at this moment in time. The project, when completed, will make the need for an operating elevator
More important.
more important.
But if the elevator guys start working on, construction guys are working, there's no intersection of that.
We will have to see how that logistics, right? If they're both working in that same space at the same time, which they might find themselves in the same space in September, because we'll probably need a 3-month lead on the materials for the elevator.
Are you planning to give us an elevator update?
I'll give an elevator update and the superintendent's update, yes.
But what you're saying is that there is
a possibility.
There's a temporal and a spatial intersection of those.
Correct. There could be.
Yeah, Justin was hoping
Get that.
that by September, work in the stateroom would be isolated to the room, would be internal. But there may be
people moving and things in and out of those doorways. That's what I'm thinking. It's not like they're gonna be working in the same space, but that hallway will be busy.
There's not a safety issue, I presume, elevator stuff and.
No, I think it'll be more like we might have to make sure that those two work groups can communicate with one another and work out the nuances of that dance.
Is there any chance that dance happens before school starts again?
I think our hope is to expedite the elevator process. It's a 3 to 4 month process between ordering materials and then getting them on site and starting the installation.
Okay.
So
you've obviously thought it through.
We're hoping that we'll talk about FinCom voted to fund it with next year's funds, deficit.
This
Board of
year's
Selectmen. Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen, yeah. Board of Selectmen voted deficit funding, so we can go ahead with those contracts, even though we haven't really finalized where the funding will come from.
Yeah.
But we can start the process now so that we can get it completed.
You didn't have to RFP, you went with the bid.
No, it's an emergency situation.
Okay, thank you.
So, do we have a sense of the timeline then, once the vendor is selected and the contract is signed?
Vendor.
For the mistake room?
For the mistake room?
For the music
Performing arts studio.
We don't have a mistake room anymore.
For the performing arts studio?
Yeah, so when is the construction slated to happen?
Well,
July, August.
Right. So it will be over the summer?
Yes.
It will be.
Okay.
Yeah, if everything goes
We're hoping
great,
everything lines up.
it will be isolated it can be isolated to no more than 8 weeks, if everything goes exactly as it's supposed to go. So we need a little latitude, because things don't always go exactly as they're.
And Rob will be...
Rob will be overseeing both of these.
Okay.
And our hope is it will be done as soon as possible. If the performing arts studio doesn't get completed till mid-September, late September, it's on the fast track, and we're hoping it'll be completed as soon as possible.
And the anticipation is if there's work that's remaining, in the September times, it's mostly it's the
punch list.
finishings.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, right. Okay, anything else on that? So I'm really eager to hear about Washington DC. You guys both came back in one piece.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for having me back.
Not only that, but our daughters came back in one piece.
Thank you all. Yes, everyone accounted for.
Everyone is present, accounted for, including Superintendent O'Shea.
That's good.
I have to say the leadership's visit to England was well done.
Oh yeah, and we were not there at the time.
And I heard that there's like thousands of.
Did I give you?
Oh yeah, it's right. There were thousands of 8th graders that even Concord.
I'd say tens of thousands of 8th
Tens of
graders.
thousands. Like how many 8th graders? 150,000.
There was a lot. Everywhere we went,
It was packed. It was packed. We had it was a wonderful opportunity for students. It was jam-packed, like from dawn to even beyond dawn to dusk. It was from leaving Carlisle at 3 in the morning to Logan Airport. All the logistics involved. The kids were fabulous. It was really a wonderful experience. We were in Mount Vernon by 9 o'clock in the morning that same day, into the Capitol, monuments, memorials, Smithsonian museums, the Holocaust Memorial Museum, the African American History and Culture Museum. It was really jam-packed. kids had a blast. That's all the feedback I've had from students has been positive, which is wonderful. Having said that, we learned a lot. Superintendent O'Shea and I went on the trip, and I went as a curious consumer, right? I wanted to experience what it was like from a kid's perspective, thinking about the logistics that are involved. Also being mindful of the cost, because it is a big ask for an overnight out-of-state field trip. So at the last school committee meeting, I shared some of the other middle schools, because it tends to be actually at a national level, 8th grade DC trip, which was evident by all of the students that were there. So I shared probably 10 or 15 different vendors in different neighboring middle schools who they used, whether they flew, whether they took a train, whether they took a bus, and I've come to narrow it down to 2. We currently use World Strides, and the quote here, you can see it's rather on the high side, and I was going back and forth with them actually as of today. They have come down on that price. They said they were willing to be lower. I do recommend flying.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Despite the fact it is a very, very early wake up, the trade-off in transit on the front and the back end is significant. It's significant because you're right there. So looking at the 2 vendors, you can see World Strides. One thing that I will say is more advantageous is Capital Tours has a better chaperone ratio. So World Strides, we had a 50-to-1 ratio. We had 2 chaperones per bus, in addition to a local tour guide, which they provided that was with us really from the airport on.
So Matt, my daughter actually loved it. But
yeah, great.
The one negative feedback, negative maybe too strong, but she remarked that she didn't think that much of the
tour guide.
Yeah.
So I have provided that feedback, and I think we agree with your daughter. So at this point, I am recommending that we go with Capital Tours. Now, the difference with Capital Tours, if you notice, they do not do local Carlisle to Logan airport transfer. So I received a quote from Bedford Charter. I figure that the parents of Carlisle don't want to wake up at 3 in the morning and drive their kids all the way to Logan. So it averages out to about $20 per student there and back, which I feel like is a good deal from Bedford Charter. Yep. It's all inclusive. And then if you look on the 2nd and 3rd pages, you can see there is a rough proposed itinerary. It's very comparable to what we just experienced. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I learned, and I think Jim will comment on it as well firsthand, is where you land in DC, because there's 3 neighboring airports, really matters.
And you guys were BWI.
We were up to BWI, but yet our hotel was at Dulles. It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense.
And that's on them, right? That was on their sides, yeah.
Absolutely. So if you look at this, the hotel here is in Alexandria, which is
central.
Much more central. So there is some negotiation that we can have with Capital Tours. It's also a local company. It's out of Massachusetts, and then obviously Bedford Charters as well. So there's that. You asked me about fundraising opportunities. This past year, the class of 2019, they raised a little bit, right around $1,000 in a car wash. Mm-hmm. Very fortunate that we had a $500 donation from a parent. And that yielded essentially 1 full scholarship. We would anticipate doing a similar fundraising effort. I do believe that our students should have some skin in the game. They should provide some community service to some fundraising to then offset some costs. Mm-hmm. Then I also talked with the class rep for the next year's 2020s. That's our current 7th grade class. And they're willing, and you can see the range of about $4,500 to up to $6,000 out of the class fund, which would go as an upfront cost to subsidize all students to lower the cost. My goal is to have this trip be under $1,000. So with that in mind, if you can see on a low end, if the class of 2020 were to put up $4,500, it would result on a basis of, let's say, 70 students participate, of about $64 in savings. Therefore, the cost would be $971.
So where did the I think that's great, but where does the 4,500 come and why didn't the current 8th grade have any?
They did, however, it was done kind of retroactively. By doing this is my first year, so looking at the finances, the current 6th grade class raises money through the spaghetti stopper, which then goes to subsidize or essentially pay for the entire 7th grade play. Also, it goes to offset some of the costs of transportation to and from outdoor education. Then from there, we're looking to fund DC to lower the cost for all families.
But I understand that, but what happened this year?
So
this year pot of money, where did it go? Did it get spread around?
Yeah, so this year, the money went from the class of 2019 to DC.
It did go?
Yep.
So some of what we paid was a subsidized rate already?
No, in fact, I believe the class of 2019 will be allocating like rebates or like money directly to parents. That's the plan.
Okay. Yeah, we did get, I think get a credit.
It's like $50 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So that is.
So it did end up, you're saying it did do it, it just didn't.
It did do it, but it did on the back end. And what I would like to do is to do it on the front end
I agree.
to lower the price.
I saw that credit, so that.
That's what that was, yeah. Good question.
So it ended up being, I forget even the amount now, was it 1,400 this year?
No,
It was less,
so the thing about World Strides that I would really like to shift away from was it's really their financial model.
Yeah.
The parents have to navigate through a website.
Yeah.
You have to then set up a payment plan. It's a different fee structure that I felt was Capital Tours had a better product.
Right, okay. That's good.
And this price for Capital Tours will be guaranteed.
Yeah, if you look at the next page.
And then the location where the kids are flying in, because there's a definitely price difference using each airport. So Dallas is always more expensive to fly in than
DWI.
Yes. Than the Baltimore one. So
Yep.
They will guarantee that we are flying into Dallas.
I don't know if they'll
Because that would
guarantee
be
the
a-
arrival.
Dulles is not better. The only one that's better is National.
Or Reagan, yeah.
DCA is the one, yeah, right.
Reagan is right.
But that's gonna be the most expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in my conversations with World Strides, because we stayed out by Dulles at a Hilton this year, it's just economics 101. The closer you're to DC, the more the hotel costs.
Right.
So that's why we were further out,
Right.
and it was about a 45-minute drive from DC out to the hotels on a night.
Now, I noticed they're not
It's actually
recommending
not bad.
the Mount Vernon.
That's usually a high traffic amount of hours. Yeah.
So some of this is just a rough proposed itinerary. They're open to customizing it with us. I want to make sure that we go again to the Holocaust Museum as well as African American History Museum. Those are really powerful. The International Spy Museum, I went to that. I want to say
Commercial, I
It
went.
reopened a week ago.
Yeah.
It's all different now.
Oh, it is?
They just
Okay.
redid, we went over the weekend after this.
Oh, was it good?
It was fun, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would go to the African American Museum over
absolutely.
it.
I mean, you have to,
Definitely.
it's a private museum.
It's a private museum, it's very interactive, it's like, breakout games, kind of.
What you don't see here, which is a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is the museum is.
How was that? Did you guys do that?
That was
It was
amazing.
wonderful.
Yeah,
It was
loved it.
wonderful. The 9/11 portion was really, really powerful.
So, my feedback on the Old Spy Museum was that it meant a lot to us who grew up in the James Bond era.
Yeah.
Like, that was cool for us, and the kids were like, what? A little
Yeah.
camera and a pen? It didn't really listen. They liked the games, but it wasn't, like, spying, like, the way it was presented wasn't relevant to them. That's just my...
Yep. If you look at the fine print on the second page, you can see the tour cost is broken up by bus. So when you look at the bus, it's the local charter bus down in DC that really is the biggest variable. So if we can get 70 kids to sign up for this trip, we could put 30 and you notice the 40. So the cost may actually be less than what I'm quoting you here, which is positive. So I'm giving you the upper end of the quote, but I'm very pleased that it's under $1,000.
The graduating 7th grade is 73?
I have 73, but that number fluctuates with
And
students.
you
coming.
typically get 90?
I'd like, this past year, we had, I think, 5 or 6 students not go for various reasons. You're always gonna have some students
You're always
that
gonna
just.
have some of that.
Yeah,
two rumblings I heard before the trip, and I honestly haven't heard anything after, where one was, for example, the use of this kind of $4,500 to $6,000 that being used for this rather than for a Boston Harbor cruise or some kind of social kind of thing. So I just wanted to know how the kids felt about that and if they're on board with that or.
Yeah, so that was a space that I needed to address largely with our parent community because I think there were some misconceptions about where the money was coming from, where it was going to. So I sent out an email to kind of articulate everything I just shared about the spaghetti supper and how the money flows. That being said, in the past, going back last year and the year before I was here, it's my understanding that graduation activities were funded out of pocket. So those activities like Blue Man Group and the Boston Harbor Cruise, the school would then ask parents for $200, $300 for the students to attend those activities.
Well, because Madeline was an 8th grader last year, and so they went to the Blue Man Group, and they went on the Boston Harbor Cruise, and I don't recall paying anything. No, I think it was funded from this money that we're talking
then maybe
about.
I'm misspeaking.
So that's what was my same question. What Sarah was asking is, you know, it sounds like now we're going to forego some of those end of year activities. Well, all of them. You know, for the trip.
The one feedback I did have from a group of 8th grade students, they were asking about the opportunity to go on a cruise. It seems like the cruise resonated. Yeah. I did look into putting a cruise into this current year's trip.
It's really expensive.
It was like $160 additional per student. And then when you start to look at the itinerary,
it doesn't fit in.
Then you say, do we cut off the FDR Memorial, World War II Memorial, the Holocaust Museum to go on a cruise up and down the Potomac? It just felt like the educational value wasn't worth the social.
And some of the students were stressed about, then I have to go back to the hotel, I have to change, I have to make myself look nice for this, and then I have to bring an extra pair of shoes.
But the,
good point.
You know, my daughter never mentioned that part, but I think the feedback, you know, again, through her eyes is just that it was on the list. And people were kind of jazzed up.
Yeah.
If it never showed up, it wouldn't, I don't think, be an issue. But because it was on there, and in her case anyway, she bought a dress for it. Like, it was like a thing. Don't worry, she had plenty of chance. She has more clothes.
I'll say, I'm the current 7th grade rep that will be working with Matt on this for next year. And Matt, thank you so much for working so hard at getting the cost down. First question is, there were a lot of gotchas in the first group that we had. With the tour group, was that World Strides?
Yes.
Remember when you got into, if you don't pay this much, buy this much?
Exactly, so that talks to the financial piece that I was not as excited about.
Right, but are there any gotchas in Capital Tours?
So Capital Tours has locked in that price. You can see the quote back in May 15th. Okay. So this is still valid. Okay. The nice thing about it is there's a deposit, non-refundable, $175, not until November. So we don't have to do anything until November, which is great.
Okay. Then secondly, I'll go back and I'll say that for a very long time, there was a parent committee that planned graduation activities. And what we found was then we had a committee that wanted to put the kids on a boat, which meant that all of the parents on that committee became liable by default if something happened on the boat. We had parents pulling out extra insurance policies on their homes because they were so afraid of something happening on the boat. And that's when Carrie Wilson came in and she said, oh, well, if it's under the protection of the school, then we'll take care of it. So that's when graduation activities slid over to Matt's office, which was really great. So there is a committee that works on graduation, which I've ghosted this spring so that I would know what to do next spring. And I will say that there's always rumblings when there's change or misunderstanding. And the chair of this year's graduation committee felt like there was some disappointment and some feedback about things that were missed, the dance, the harbor cruise, but in general, people were very happy.
Yeah, and I tried to build this current DC trip as the seminal graduation activity. Yeah. And for those 5 or 6 students that didn't go, we tried to build a comparable experience. They went to the Edward Kennedy Center for Civics down in the JFK area of South Boston, and then they went on the Freedom Trail, and I want to say they did 3 field trips, and I can't remember the third one.
So I have a question
Yeah.
quickly, was the other rumbling was that there were a number of parents who wondered why, like, how much more would it have cost to fly on Tuesday night instead of, you know,
Leave another
leave
hotel room.
leave
One
on,
more.
right, it's one hotel room split between four people.
It's not only the hotel room,
Right.
it's the bus driver.
Yeah.
Because you're paying for the coach for an extra night, and you're
Yeah.
putting up the coach
So that's what I did.
driver in the hotel.
Shop,
So it
it's
does,
the transit thing.
so to that, you might as well do 4 days instead of 3, and then fly out at 5 in the morning. You're trying to maximize our time in DC.
You
and
can't,
money some more.
it would be too complicated if you take public transport to the hotel. If you did the night model, it would be a nightmare.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because they were asking why can't you leave at 7 o'clock at night?
I mean, how did the kids do in day one? Were they?
Day one was, I mean, they were singing John Denver songs at 3:30 in the morning, Take Me Home Country Road, on the way down on 128. I mean, they were jazzed
Yeah, no, I'm
up.
sure they're jazzed. I was more asking about the
But
back.
at the end of the day.
I think they had more energy than I did. I mean, we were falling asleep. I was fine.
Speak for yourself.
But the kids were, they were singing, it was great.
Okay, so the morning thing is not.
No, the morning thing.
They were so excited in the morning, I heard
Yeah.
that the kids, my daughter gets up and is ready in 5 minutes. She said, Mom, they got me up 30 minutes before going on the bus. And there was, one of the girls said, oh, who wants to go to the gym and work out at 5:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
So I don't think the kids had a problem. They were so excited.
No.
It's kind of a thing, right? Getting up at
Yes.
2:30 and being at the bus. It's not a thing you want to do often, but it's a thing that they were happy to do that one time.
And an additional feedback I've heard about that social component. I heard great feedback about going on this trip as a class, having that super social experience that you don't actually get on the cruise.
Yeah.
Because cruise is just a party, it's awkward for a lot of kids. This, it turns out that it's a big party. Because you see the Concord kids, you see the kids
That
from
was
all
great.
over.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
There's the kids exchanging Snapchats.
Well, yeah.
They're dropping things.
Vlogging their, vlogging where they're going, they're
We did bump into
experiences
the middle school students from Concord at a couple of our lunch stops, so that was
Concord
entertaining.
was Concord MS.
They were there at the same
Yep,
time.
they were there at the exact same time, yeah. The one nice thing I will say is having a security guard sitting out in the hallway monitoring it. I got written reports with very detailed feedback, and I would sign it every morning. The professionalism, I will say, of World Strides in that aspect was great. I do think there is variability in who you get as a tour guide, and you can request certain tour guides.
But how do you know?
Understand, Mickey Kilmartin, our 8th grade history teacher, requested specific tour guides from last year, we just didn't get them.
Oh, I see, okay. Did he have his baby, by the way?
Not yet, no. So it's any minute now.
Also the museum, the museum.
The museum, that's
The
closing
museum.
unfortunately.
Oh, that was amazing. I've heard great things
Yeah,
about
they
it.
lost their building.
I think they said they found a new location, I think.
But that physical space.
But that space is moving out.
That museum really resonated with the kids.
It was awesome. It was one of my favorite museums.
And the Holocaust Museum.
Yeah, it was very powerful.
So here's the one thing that I would really strongly suggest considering as far as fundraising, because I know that some of these, these smaller efforts did raise a little bit of funds, but maybe there's a potential to hold an event for the kids. The kids, participate in planning like a dance.
Yeah.
Because we don't have middle school dances here anymore. I know that we used to a long time ago, but as long as I really can remember, we haven't had them. And I think that, it's a nice thing for kids. In 6th grade, they go to the social dance and they learn dancing. And then I think, it kind of flows from there that it's nice. A lot of schools have those, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe if we could even consider partnering with the Carlisle Youth Commission, who has a budget for whole dance, Friday Night Live.
Yeah, absolutely.
And create an event where part of the proceeds will go to funding this trip or some other activity for the 8th graders, like a cruise or a Blue Man Group or something they might want to do. or offsetting the cost of this. And so they get two things out of that. And they get to have dance, they get maybe participate in planning it too, and then some of the funds will go towards their activities. So I think that might be worth exploring too.
Right, I'm hoping to work with the parents to do some, and the students in that, to do some passive and some active fundraising so that we can get the cost down and have a little bit of, just a little bit of leeway to do something fun, in addition to the trip if we can. So,
When would you do it? At graduation time or?
yeah, I guess I would let the parents and Matt make that decision because I think I can only speak to graduation.
Yeah,
But
I think, the kids really did like the cruise, but I understand this is sort of a class activity that it's like a culminating activity at the end of the year.
And I think the reality of this was much more social than they had anticipated.
Right.
All of the agitation was before going, where they would go through the litany of activities that other grades had done that they weren't going to do, and you had to remind them, but those were 10 years of grades that did this. They didn't, not every grade got to do all those grades, so they had this cumulative feeling of loss, but then I think once they went, they felt
Well, and given, I'm sure you feel that it was better positioned now than in the
I think it was
April break.
very well positioned. We lock in the date, and if you look, I think the quote from Capital Tours is essentially the same week. It's the June 3rd through June 5th. It would be the week preceding graduation. That would be fixed.
Sounds like Washington DC is kind of expecting them this time of year.
It's packed.
Like, that sounds like the time to go.
I will say selfishly, it was awesome for me to get to know kids at the level that teachers see, or maybe even beyond that. So for me, going into 8th grade graduation tomorrow, I know kids at a so much deeper level, and it's just awesome to have that connection.
Good.
Great, thank you so much for going. And
Do
thank
we
you
have to
for-
vote anything? Or?
We voted last time,
You voted last
and I
time,
think
but-
that you're moving forward with in the right,
Great.
on the right track, right? I mean,
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Oh, that's right.
We need to presentation. Dr. Naylor show.
That's the way I find it.
Middle school update.
the school scheduling.
Ah, good. I feel so unconnected.
Is there, if residents want to donate, there's something over the year that residents know they can donate to, is there some way to designate a donation for an 8th grade trip?
I've never accepted a donation like that. I almost wonder if they should contact the PTO.
Because with World Strides, I think you had to do it straight
Directly
through.
to them.
You added it to,
But could
No,
you?
I'm talking about I'm donating, like if a resident in the town wanted to donate towards a fund that would go to an 8th grade trip, but they wanted to be targeted.
I suppose I could. I mean, I have a line for like 8th grade that would be money.
So one thing, Sarah just went out of the room, but what they're doing, a teacher retired from the middle school down in Concord. It might be elementary, but anyway, she apparently loves travel, and so in her honor, I don't think she's contributing, but in her honor, they're setting up some kind of fund because they have these trips. They go to France and Japan. They have these really expensive trips, and so the same dialogue, but at a much bigger dollar level, is happening down there, and so. Because you do get a little bit of not even a little bit, you get some kind of economic segregation where some families just can't go, right? So anyway, they're setting up, and Jared seems to know, because I was quizzing him on the legality of how to do what you're saying, but they're setting up some kind of fund that is earmarked.
Yeah.
So you could check in with him and.
Well, when the fundraising is done now, where does that money go?
Well, when people set up scholarship funds, you can have a sustaining scholarship fund. You have to raise, say, the minimum is like $5,000. And once you have that in that account, it accrues interest, and kids could get scholarships based on the interest.
So what is that account? It's not a revolving, right? What is it classified?
Student accounts.
It would be in revolving.
It would be. So the concern is kind of competing with CEF or, when you have too many, we're such a little town, right? So, you give to one.
But this would just be, we could just have in the student accounts, you can have a scholarship account, and
Yeah.
if people donate money into it, it goes into the scholarship
Say
account.
for a
and then-
specific purpose, eighth
So you
grade.
could
Not to be touched by anything else.
Right,
Yeah.
it would just be offsets for the eighth grade trip.
But you have to publicize it, it has
So if we want people to make donations, we have to
Yeah.
put the word out, but if people come forward to us, we can say, yeah, donate to the scholarship
You
account.
could just open that
Just
up.
put it directly in.
If somebody came forward, you could just open up that account.
If someone wants to write the first check, we will open that account.
Yeah, and there might be parents, you never know, parents, their kids will come back and say.
I'll tell you who
"Oh,
our
so
target
great."
audience is, grandparents.
Right,
Who appreciate a trip their grandchildren went on, or how wonderful the school is that their grandchildren are graduating from. Just saying.
Great.
Okay.
Do you want me to wait or?
No, go
All right, so I'm happy to
Wait
share
for
with you
November.
the pilot schedule for the middle school for next year. This is a presentation, as you know, this has been an ongoing conversation we've been having with middle school students, teachers, and parents. I surveyed students back in, I want to say December, the faculty as well, and had a survey with parents. Looked at the data, and then have gone back and forth with teachers. Some of the bullet points, I recently in the last month or so, had parent focus groups where I shared this presentation both during a morning breakfast, coffee, and then in the evening. It was very well attended. We had like 30 or 40 parents show up. I answered questions. The idea here is, and I framed this presentation using this notion of a design mindset and design thinking. We have exceptional middle school teachers that are really working to their fullest current capacities, and we have kids that are coming up from elementary school with complex and unique needs. So what I am proposed, and this is the pilot I'll share with you, is that we need to do things differently in the middle school. We need to adjust our instructional practices, methods, and structures to better meet the needs of kids. I did share with them a very brief TED Talk. It's done by a Harvard researcher named Todd Rose. I don't know if I'm going to share this with you right now, but it's fascinating. I'll share this presentation. In short, he summarized a problem of practice that the U.S. Air Force was facing in cockpit design. The cockpit of fighter jets were built for the average human being, and they looked at body measurements, weight, height, eyes, like length, stretch, all these different measurements, and they determined that no one fit all of those averages. So essentially, a fighter cockpit was designed for nobody. So I use that as an example to say that the myth of the average doesn't suit anyone. So I'll recommend that you check it out. It's just the first 5 minutes. I'm not going to share it with you right now, but that's what I shared with the parents. And then these are the core priorities of the new middle school schedule, is that all students who struggle, whether you're on a 504, an IEP, a general ed kid, whoever you are, if you're struggling, we're going to help you in the form of these new blocks. They're called flex blocks. We've gone back and forth with the name for a while. They're called WIN blocks, which stands for what I need, but our teachers have settled on the idea of a flex block. Currently, band and chorus is not in our middle school schedule. It exists concurrent to tutorial, and it creates this dichotomy where kids could go to band or chorus, but at the same time, if they need to make up something for a test or a quiz, they have to do that. So it creates this dynamic that is tension-filled for kids. That won't exist next year. And then also, I look to expand health into grade 5. Currently, we have health in 6th, 7th, and 8th. It just makes sense to put it in grade 5 to address some of the social emotional needs, some of the emerging challenges of technology, social media, and that sort of thing. So those are the priorities that underpin it. The detail of the schedule, we looked at everything. We looked at 6-day, 8-day rotational schedules. We looked at a waterfall pattern. I don't know if you're familiar with what a waterfall pattern is. It basically means that instead of having a period 1 class that meets every day from 8 to 9, that class would bounce around at different times of the day. Therefore, kids, we know that kids present and learn differently before or after lunch or at different times. So if you always had math, period 1, then those kids that would benefit from that time of day would benefit from that, but if you had math at the end of the day, then it would be more challenging. So they give a waterfall as it spreads it out. So we would look to do that for math, science, social studies, and play. A daily homeroom and advisory to start each and every day as a home base, also involving some executive functioning in there, team building, social emotional. Lunch and recess through the surveys came out crystal clear that all stakeholder groups, parents, teachers, kids, everyone wanted recess. We didn't touch recess in terms of the duration or the time of day. And then flex blocks, as I said, would be in the schedule for Tier 2 and enrichments for those kids that don't require additional support. A little bit about Tier 2, and maybe the school committee, I imagine, understands this. Tier 2 falls under the RTI pyramid. Currently we have general ed kids, special ed kids, 5-4 kids, but then Tier 2 is really something that we have a little glimmer of currently, but this new proposal will drastically expand that, and it'll be embedded in the schedule 2 times a week in grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's something that the state recommends. They have a blueprint, it's the MTSS. So in the flex blocks, what will happen is this will provide for all students, as I said, if you struggle. We are currently in the process of identifying research-based programs to do some progress monitoring to identify kids in their areas of struggle, universal. I know the English teachers came together and I think they recommended to participate in a program called STARS. I think Concord uses that. Yeah, math is still in process. I also want to take a look at some executive functioning supports in there because this is something that middle school kids struggle with. And there doesn't seem to be a lot out there right now in terms of executive functioning research and curriculum and progress monitoring. There is some at the early elementaries, but that's a space that I'd like to continue to look. And then there's data to form a baseline. Teachers are making recommendations to me, and then we're plugging kids into different flexible groups. That's the whole idea of flex blocks. We're using a variety of metrics. It's data driven, so cross grade, 4th to 5th, 5th to 6th, you can see how it goes. They are in turn sharing their recommendations after a full year with students, saying this child really still struggles despite all the effort this year in X, Y, or Z. I'm also correlating it with like NCAS scores, and I even populated it with report card grades, just to give us a baseline of where students are at performance-wise.
Can you explain what we're seeing in that chart?
Yeah, so this would be, what I purposely did was I eliminated the student names, because this is a public document, essentially you'll see that. Homerooms, whether or not the teacher recommended them for Tier 2 math for next year, just giving you a glimpse of some of the data decision. MCAS scores, whether it was partially met, exceeds, so it gives you an idea of how they did on last year's MCAS.
Yeah.
I have access to I have access to the MCAS that the kids just did, so I'll preview that to see how that fits in here, and then our current report card grades.
Report card grades in the subject?
In subject areas, yeah, the academic subject areas, the math, and
so that would be, say, a class in 5th grade or 6th grade.
Exactly. So
math class.
The 5th grade teachers are doing this and then saying...
Presenting it to the 6th grade.
Exactly.
And saying, and so the 5th grade teacher would, I can't read the little words, but probably recommend like that first person to get Tier 2 support.
Some math support, definitely.
Now, I understand from talking to Will that there will be, for example, in 6th grade next year, maybe 2 co-taught math sections. So would this like inform you how?
This is on top of whatever specialized services kids are going to get. Okay. This is supplemental, and regardless of whether general ed or special ed.
So you wouldn't use this to inform the way you set up the...
To use to inform...
Well, you got 4 sections, like 4 homerooms of 6th grade.
Oh yeah, no, this is on top of it. I'll show you the pattern later.
Okay.
All right. So the criteria, we're still developing this. Yeah. Basically, all students, as I said, general ed, special ed, 504, are eligible to receive this. Teacher input, because teachers know the kids best currently. They've been with them all year. So that's the spreadsheet I shared. MCAS data, report card data, as well as student growth percentile data will all go into it. But I want teacher voice to be in the center of this because they know students. What you also don't see yet that will be up here is universal screening. because some of our summer days, this summer, teachers are collaborating, like our math teachers in the middle school are getting together, our English teachers are, social studies and science look at executive functioning. Also, they're doing it vertically, 5, 6, 7, 8, but then they're also meeting as a team to think about the logistics that go into this, because it is a change.
So wait, you vertically like the math for all for middle school?
5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math teachers are going to meet this summer.
To talk about how it progresses or about individuals? And how
they're going to look at curriculum
yeah.
and research-based curriculum and progress monitoring tools, screening tools to go into this.
Okay.
So this is the work still to be done.
Right. And then the horizontal one would be the team.
Horizontal would be your
team is
exactly.
And the time to do that by those teachers, is that part of their professional days this summer?
Mm-hmm. Yep. In fact, we've approved it. There was some back and forth. We helped kind of steer some proposals, but yeah, and I'm going to be there to support them. So that's the criteria. The specials, and this is largely unchanged. A big thing is health in 5th grade. Currently, our 5th graders don't get health. That'll be an expansion. PE 2 times a week, art 2 times a week. That's pretty consistent. Flex blocks, it would be up to 2 times a week. And then some specials for some kids. World languages, not all of our students take world language currently. Most do. That would meet 3 times a week. Currently, we have this thing called
Flex.
That is super confusing. It's also called Flex.
But it's language flex.
It's a language flex. I just realized that. And that is, we describe it as like the appetizer sampler menu.
That's for the
3rd of the year, you take
right.
Mandarin, and you take French, and you take Spanish, and you rotate through. That would continue in 4th grade, but starting from 4th to 5th, students would choose a language, and it would continue for the remaining 4 years of middle school 3 times a week.
Are they now at 3 times?
No. They continue. Right now, our 5th graders do the flex, so they only have it 1 time a week, and the language only lasts a trimester.
No, I mean in 6, 7, 8.
In 6, it's 3, and 7, it's 3, and 7.
So that would be kind of the same.
It's essentially average out over the entire duration of a middle school experience. It is what is recommended by the middle school department. The middle school foreign language department came together and said this is our desired outcome.
Okay.
So then what I did was we also looked at the class size projections, the number of kids we currently have. We looked at the number of sections. It's pretty complicated trying to balance out who takes what language, because there's not a lot of choice in our schedule, which is something I would like to expand. We do offer 2 sections of Spanish, 1 of French, and 1 of Chinese. This is done by enrollment. Kids elect these classes that choose, so you can see the pattern will continue, basically 2 Spanish and 1 of the other 2 language offerings. That's just the way the numbers shook out. How and when it will work, what you see, this is the tail end of the schedule. Imagine periods 1 through 4 here, period 5 is lunch and recess. Classes are colored, so this would just be an example of a social studies 7th grade pattern. This would be a section, it bounces around. The other classes that would meet on Wednesday and Thursday would be in the morning. But then you have these tier 2 blocks. Flex blocks is what we're going to call them, and we would offer ELA support, math support, executive functioning, and for those students, after we do those assessments and the progress monitoring, if they don't need those supports, we're going to provide enrichments in that area.
So would this be for 1 7th grade cohort, and then another 7th grade class would have a different pattern?
No, the entire 7th grade. This would be for the entire 7th grade.
So the entire 7th grade does social studies at the same time?
No, I'm sorry. This social studies.
Oh, I see. 1 of the 4 blocks. They're rotating through the yellow blocks, basically.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you. It's a little confusing. But the idea here is that by clustering the support tier 2 blocks here, they have math, the English, social studies, science teacher, potentially a special educator, all there to help kids flexibly. So if a child is able to achieve those standards and show progress, then that's great.
So let's use the upper left. So the core group of the 4 core teachers of the 7th grade team they're all teaching from 12 to 12:46, and again from 12, I can't read the red, but
Yeah,
1250.
exactly.
So in that, somewhere in that is the special educator, right? So
Yes.
that's, what's her name? Let's see your
Which grade?
What?
7th, Tracy.
Tracy Malone.
Yeah.
So she's in that mix. Is she the one doing the tier, who's doing the tier 2s?
No, great question. So we want the math teacher who knows the kids, who knows the curriculum, to do the tier 2. We want the English teacher that knows the kids and the curriculum to do the tier 2. So they would be actually delivering that instruction
During the classroom?
during this tier 2 block.
Oh,
in the schedule.
I see.
So
Okay,
it's
not during the yellow block, but in the
It's
black.
supplemental services for those kids that struggle.
I see.
On top of what instruction are already getting.
Right.
So it has to be additional.
So if you know, again, hypotheticals, right?
Yeah.
So 7th grade just happens to have like 15 kids that need tier 2 math. Let's just,
Yes.
Now, poor, again, who's the math teacher? I don't remember because they retired.
Liz Perry.
What?
Liz Perry.
Liz Perry. So what's she gonna do with 15 kids in 45 minutes?
So twice a week, we're going to prioritize those kids' needs based on data. We're going to see how those kids are doing in math here. And if a child really struggles with math, then you get math twice, double math support. If a kid struggles with math and literacy, or they need Wilson reading or some other type of...
So, and I realize we're getting real granular, but
Yeah.
it's good, I think, also for Lori to hear this, in my opinion, is RTI, you got an I, and then you got an R. So the I is the black stuff, right? In other words,
That's a
you bring it
response.
No, that's the intervention. The response is how well the kids take to the intervention.
Okay, yeah.
So you start with this, right? And you have the I part, which is Liz Perry figuring out which kids she works with in that block. And maybe it goes 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever your period is. You evaluate, now you got the R part.
Yeah.
And some kids take to it with that thing. Some kids need more, some kids don't need it, right?
Yes.
But the ones who need the more, is it, there now a movement over to tier 3? I mean, what?
So we would, the movement to tier 3 is exclusively based on a disability.
But you may identify it through this process.
You could use this as a progress monitoring tool, and teachers then would collaborate because they all work together.
Right.
And that could be a function.
I mean, I just want, this is like a big deal with me, so I'm sorry for getting so granular, but, and Lori, you know, I mean, this will be interesting next year. You gotta be a little careful, right? I mean, in other words, there's a clear IEP pattern where you identify disability and fix it. But, and this is happening at Concord too, because they're doing this testing, right?
Yeah.
You test kids who don't show up on IEP or 504, and you identify shortcomings, which is good for educators to do. You go in now and you do RTI, and you peel back and you see, gee, there really is a problem there that somehow the kid, you know, maybe as they got older, you know, who knows, right? But you're moving out of the homeroom situation of K through 4, and you're exposing these kids to, you know, an ever-increasing academic load, and maybe you're now finding these shortcomings. I just say we need to be prepared.
Yeah.
That those, now you're waking it up, and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But there's a cost that isn't in there.
Well, yeah, putting about a pre-referral process, right? Like as we try these interventions, and we try them and we see screen again, check the progress, see if they made progress, if not, try again. Yeah, that data will then inform the referral process. So yeah,
you may end up with more kids at the 504 level.
But we will definitely end up with more students getting support that they
which is good. Right.
But David, the counter argument to that is, if done well, this could actually help
reduce
kids and reduce it, because we're catching them and we're backfilling some of the gaps. Maybe we're previewing upcoming things so kids know what to expect, and then they're more successful.
Well, right, and the overall, you know, for me, the middle school goal, and again, because I have an incoming 9th grader and I'm also now in region, those of us who are 8th grade parents, are witnessing firsthand now the enormous academic challenge that sits down there in Concord, and getting 5th and 6th graders, starting them on that path so they're ready at 8th.
Yeah.
You know, I totally support it, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of little pieces here that are gonna
And the big thing, and I've been really trying to stress this with teachers, this is a pilot.
Yeah.
We're going to try this. I'm going to support teachers. They need to be in a culture and in a space of innovation and trying and really learning from their experience.
Yeah.
They may get into this halfway through the year and realize the processes we're using aren't exactly what they imagined, and they can pivot. That's okay. I want them to learn from this experience.
Man, can I ask a quick question and understand something? In the
Yeah.
middle, it says executive function and support, so it's pointing up to either tier 1, tier 2.
Yeah, so we're in an interesting situation where we don't mandate band or chorus, and we don't want to force kids into band or chorus right now. We don't want parents to go out and have to buy an instrument or put kids into a place where they don't really want to be. So this is a logical place during band or chorus, if your child doesn't take band or chorus, to provide services. Because otherwise,
They've already started band and chorus in 4th grade.
yeah,
So when they get to 7th grade, are they going to have to drop it if they're getting tier 2 support?
No, because tier 2 would happen here or here. But for those students that don't take band or chorus, because some of them over time currently haven't completed band or chorus, this would be a place. If you're not taking band or chorus, we want to provide you services here so that you can take other things later.
But right now, the kids who need the, I would call it executive function help, that don't take world language, go to this, what is it called?
SLS or study skills.
Right,
that would be their specialized support
That's
classes.
still in place, this is on top of that?
But that's for the IEPs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the IEPs. But that was one, let me just continue with this, because that was one example at 7th grade. So we got really kind of granular here. If you take a look at the patterns, of the Monday to Friday pattern, you can see the duration of the blocks. We do have consistent periods. And some of the feedback I heard from teachers is they desired longer blocks so that they can go in depth with things like laboratory activities and science or an extended discussion. So this pattern would still allow for that to happen. And the tier 2 blocks would be clustered towards the end of the day. And I did that deliberately, we did that deliberately because the teachers really desired the tier 1 instruction to the extent possible in the morning. That way, if a kid struggled in the morning, hey, we can help them in the afternoon to be as responsive and as needed as possible. This is what the teachers asked for.
Excellent.
Yeah. Great.
And the clubs, just to be clear, the clubs that used to meet during tutorial, not like Model UN that's at lunch, but the art club that was in tutorial.
Yeah, so if you notice right now, there are no tutorials. And the challenge was kids had to choose clubs, tutorials, or band or chorus, or extra help, and that was the tension.
What's the time of that? 2 something or 3 something?
That's the one that goes until 2 to 1.
Yeah, it goes
1:30
It's like
to
1:35.
Oh, it's the end of the regular day.
Exactly. Yeah. But looking at this is not to scale. This is a 45-minute lunch and recess, so it would be essentially the same duration. So they could continue if they wanted to do clubs during lunch or after school. Somebody asked about special ed. Currently, our call-out support for special ed happens offset during when world language meets, and those in this model meets 3 times a week. So that would continue in different patterns. Getting back to what I shared earlier about Spanish, we need 2 sections of Spanish. We can call it A, B, or C, D. Those are the two patterns. We can continue to deliver those special ed services, pull out in this model as well. Push-in support for those kids that are on IEPs, it would continue. We can cohort some students by different classes. You see it more in math than you do in other subjects like honors and enrich. And the special educator or perhaps a paraprofessional can be there to support students in class. Other thing that's really important to maintain is collaborative time for faculty members. We need to make sure that our teachers can get together to talk about teaching and learning and student needs and some of the logistics. So that would be in the schedule again. Department meetings, social studies, math, ELA, and world language. Currently they have it during tutorial. They would no longer because they don't have tutorial. So I am 100% willing to allow them to use the Tuesday after school meeting time for that purpose on a half-day releases. That way they can continue to collaborate vertically. The team meetings would happen during the day though. School day, that is. Important considerations in the contract. As you can imagine, this is quite a puzzle. There are things such as like the number of minutes per week, specialist minutes per week. Everyone has to have a daily lunch. It's all in the collective bargaining agreement. Part-time faculty logistics, who works on what day, if you're a .8 for one language or .8 for another language. trying to balance those patterns. Also, the biggest hassle, and I will say this, it was a hassle, was the shared spaces, gym, CAF, because it just was a logistical headache. And I really want to thank Dennis Seidel for collaborating with me on this, because we went back and forth on this honestly since January, trying to figure it out. I would say, hey, here's a proposal, and he'd look at it and go, no, it doesn't work. And then he would give me a counter. We've been going back and forth all year on it. Also, the 5th grade triad, we looked at how this would work versus a dyad, who would teach what. And you can see social studies was the section with Gleason, Putnam, and Aroff taking one section of social studies each, and then ELA, science, and math falling out along those domains. And then the pattern works for the waterfall with the dyad. It's not a problem, we figured it out. There was some moment of panic when we went, oh, well, if everyone has to teach social studies, well, all we have to do is offer it at different times, and it does work out. This is where we're at in terms of, I informed the parent committee as I started with evenings and coffee. I did get some feedback. The schedule has been inputted into PowerSchool, so thank you to Nancy and to Scott Hefner and Amy Smack. We did a lot of training that was actually concurrent to what we were doing this, so it was this kind of weird space where they were learning and saying, oh, can you do this? And then I'd have to go out and ask teachers and then come back. So it was an iterative process. We have the data for math levels for next year for world language selection, band chorus, you can see it's all here. Tier 2 needs, as I said, we're still working on this. And this is going to be a space we'll continue to work on even into next year. Homeroom groupings, we know that some kids work better or less better than others. So keeping those dynamics in check. And then really it's supporting teachers. We need to support teachers for this work because this is a change. It's a change for them and it's an opportunity for growth. So I want there to be a culture of taking risks, professional risks, and feeling supported. And my goal is by the summer, 100% students, 100% scheduled. And then how do we know if it works? So here are some outputs we can look at in terms of, we can look at the traditional methods such as standardized test scores, district common assessments, report card grades. Also, I'm going to survey teachers, students. 7th grade, 6th grade will know. 5th grade will not really have the same experience because prior to that they were in 4th grade. But perception data is important, and then we can look at secondary data, attendance, and such. And at the end, we had a nice little celebration. And
That was easy.
oddly, Market Basket will print anything on a cake. So I made a scheduling cake, and I got a lot of weird looks at the checkout area.
That's great. That's tremendous. Thank you.
I know you guys heard questions as we went, but are there any other?
And you're still going to offer the homework club, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So just, again, one of the things you still have to work out is the actual teaching load of each core teacher for the tier 2s, right? I mean, there's how many students are he or she?
Yeah, but that's the flex in the flex block.
Yeah, okay.
It depends on, I mean, it's going to be kind of fluid. We know those kids in the darker blocks here, and that's where kids can flexibly move in and out.
Right. And I did mention earlier, I guess it was out of context, but I did just hear this, and it was news to me, that there is going to be some co-teaching. It's not really this, but some of the sections will have a co-teaching element. Maybe you always do have that, where the special educator, I guess, for the grade co-teaches a particular section.
Yeah, so like Jessica Montague, I was picking a color and arbitrary, but like yellow, boom, 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 and Jessica Montague pushes in and co-teaches.
Okay, that's the push in.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, which is not a question, but a comment, just you mentioned that there's not a good intervention model for social emotional, but
oh no, for executive functioning. I'm exploring that. Okay. We saw a presentation for kindergartners for executive functioning. I thought that was interesting. I haven't seen anything at the middle school. I've done a scan.
Right. But high school's looking
I'm unimpressed.
Okay.
The high school has something?
High school starting, well, what they're starting is the screening tool. Right, they're screening for
social emotional
and reading and writing, 3 different screens, but they do have
But I'm
social
thinking
emotional screening, and then they're addressing it. So there's
specifically executive functioning.
Executive function.
I would love if anyone has recommendations for curriculum for executive functioning.
So there's
It's an
no-
emerging field because
Yeah.
there's a lot of focus on that right now.
I mean, I would check in with.
Yeah, that would be great.
Check in with Mike Mastrillo, just
Yeah, I
ask
will.
him, just ask him.
You have stuff? Awesome.
Oh, good. How many students at a time do you think will be in the tier 2? Because they flow in and out, right? Last time you talked about tier 2.
How many kids are needed? So it's gonna be done by grade level.
Yeah.
So that gets back to the enrollment data. So on the high side, 74 kids could be eligible at a time. So then you have a math, you have an English teacher, then you have a social studies and a science teacher able to help. We also have a tutor, the leader early.
Students of grade.
Yeah, it just depends on what the needs are of students at different parts of the year.
And will they continue through the whole year, or previously when you talked about tier 2, those kids needs would be met, they'd be out of the program?
They could, I mean, it's gonna depend on the needs of the student, that's the intent.
So in those two tier 2 blocks that say tier 2,
Yeah.
those 10 students, let's say in 7th grade, would just meet with a teacher? Not any other students, just those?
Well, if those 10 students, if one of those 10 students masters or shows proficiency in that skill that they're deficient in, then there's no longer a need to meet until they do another screening.
And is that how tier 2 works right now? Those students are pulled out and meet separately with the teacher and then?
Well, it works differently at different levels. And at an elementary level, I've seen where that's more like differentiated, where there's like universal design for learning, which is actually some of our work going forward, where kids can access the curriculum in different parts. That is actually the foundation of a solid tier 1 program. This is supplemental. This is for those kids that don't get that despite the work of tier 1. We need to help them additionally.
So that's a separate block just for them? I mean, it's like a pull-out basically, a whole period.
So the tier 2 support as it exists presently, yeah, if you looked at it's the tier 2, the people who provide tier 2, the students they're servicing in one 6 or 8 week span may be different than the second 6 or 8 week span. Some students may continue for that second span, but some students may drop out and not need that support, and other students may.
The description previously on tier 2, how it's been handled in the past, sounded like the students went out for a little bit and came back. It wasn't the whole block. This sounds like more like a tutorial, a session, where they're out.
But they're not out of. They're not missing something when they're.
Right.
Not.
Well, it's a little like the students get foreign language or they get support. And I spoke to you before about
So that is one. There's a trade-off there. But in the tier 2, at this moment in time, there's nothing that they're missing.
So if the kids don't need tier 2, what do they do during that block?
Great question. So our teachers are designing enrichments. One thing that I'm excited about, and our 8th grade teachers are excited about, is creating like kind of like a genius hour type thing, project-based learning. So there's some spaces here that this is a pilot, but I think if it goes well, then we can improve upon it. And if it doesn't go well, then we know why and we can adjust.
And has this been presented to the special education parents?
I shared it with all teachers, parents.
You went specifically like to CPAC or give feedback specifically? I mean, you've already got.
No, not specifically to CPAC, however, all parents were invited to the parent.
But arguably, something, it actually affects SPED parents the least.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because this is not a pull-out. Before, when the kids had those
Well, it's a
classes.
pull-out if you can't do your genius thing and instead you have.
No, but those who are on
Tier two.
IBs, they already have all that stuff.
Right, if the tier 3 students already aren't allowed, excuse my language, to take, aren't
We select them.
scheduled in, no, they're not allowed to take foreign language because they have to go to tutorial. You and I talked about that. I have a son who was born in Peru. He wasn't allowed to take Spanish here
Because he would have aced it.
because he had dyslexia, so they put him in tutorial. Right?
Yeah, so I mean, at some level, there's decisions that need to be made. What is in the best interest of children, right? And we're making a value statement saying, you really need to get some support in math, literacy, executive functioning skills that is foundational so that you're successful in high school and beyond.
Correct, but it's basically a pull-out.
It's basically a segregated class. It's not.
I wouldn't use the word segregated at all.
You're not getting to do the things that the other students are doing.
I think it's exactly,
Because they have
it's not
options.
too different than what it is now with tutorial, because those, most of those blocks are during the tutorial block.
Right.
Right? So, and the tutorial block, is my understanding, is that there are some clubs that meet during tutorial.
And band and chorus.
There's band and chorus that meets during tutorial, or you have directed studies with teacher extra supports or whatever. All those kinds of things can theoretically happen in tutorial. And so instead of, it's just more, it seems to me that it's just a little more formulated in how, that it's more codified in what you're doing.
Systemic.
If you're not in band and chorus or in art club or whatever, you're doing something very directed. Maybe more so than, like, it's being more monitored, I think. I don't know. I mean, that's how it looks to me.
It seems like it's less pressure on the parent to look for identifying if the child has a missing, a component of their educational weakness in math, for example. They're going through math, and so it's not so much on the parent, but the school can identify it, put them in tutorial, and say, okay, if you do the tutorial, you're now going to go and play with the second graders, but you're going to do something that benefits you, because these are the tutorials that we're giving the kids many options to pick what they felt they wanted to do, whether it was writing with the journal club and then, so the journal clubs and a lot of those things will move to as I understood, will move to the end of the school day or after school.
They could move there, or they could move during
Or there will be
lunch
some,
if teachers were willing to do it at that time.
During lunch, okay.
But I do think there's a benefit to kids being outside for recess too.
Right, absolutely. And then on the other side, we're looking at how our kids are prepared when they're moving to high school. Because middle school is so important for that. This is when you really want to make sure that the kids, we know where they are, we know how we can help them. So when they arrive in high school, they're ready, because the pace is so much faster.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about how we can better integrate Tier 2 supports, into what we do here. So I'm really, really encouraged by this proposal and the approach. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the results will be.
And it's a pilot, so we're going to go into it and we'll learn from the experience.
Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
A lot of work, Matt.
I just want to say, thank you. Matt has worked, that cake, right? The cake was envisioned
Cake is awesome.
in January, but really, it was baked for 4 or 5 months.
And so
And really, you did an incredible job just bringing everyone together and finally coming to a place. There were a lot of rough spots throughout that process.
I will say this, change is hard, especially in such a teacher-directed workforce that we have in Carlisle. They're used to autonomy, they're used to self-direction. We have amazing teachers, and what this proposal does is it gets these thoroughbred horses all running in the same direction. And I apologize for filibustering this entire school community.
No. And there's a lot here, and I think if people want to, they should be meet with you individually to learn more detail if you want to do that, because I know that Matt would be willing to.
Well, isn't there also, Jim, you're forming or have formed a committee, more like broadly the vision thing, right?
Yes. So we're going to be looking at visioning and, what is the profile of the student we're looking to graduate from our school? And
So
what is it going to take to support
inform
that?
that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Hi, Lori.
Take care, Lori.
Good to see you, Lori. Okay, so solar project update. Jonathan DeCock is here from the solar working group, solar lease negotiating committee with an update. Do you want to come up and join us? I think I sent some information out about the latest happenings. So I don't know how far back we need to go, but everybody is aware that the transfer station
was kind of knocked out as a viable site for solar canopies. So in light of that, Amoresco created a new proposal which changed their proposal essentially and presented that to the committee. And it didn't have the same payment schedule. It was a decrease in payment schedule, and there was a bigger incremental decrease between the block numbers. So it was the feeling of the group.
Yeah, the solar working group decided that it was not financially advantageous for the town anymore. And there were a bunch of other restrictions that Amoresco had added into what they wanted in the lease agreement. And so we suggested to the Board of Selectmen that we not move forward with that. And the Board of Selectmen agreed with that. On the advice of Town Council, they said not to pick vendor number 2 from the previous RFP because the main reason that Amoresco was able to give us new numbers was that we had passed the 180-day limit, which was in the original RFP for when the numbers have to be solid. So based on having gone past that 180 days, Town Council suggests that we open a new RFP and have it very specific to just the school area and go forward with that. And so right now, the Board of Selectmen agreed with that. And so right now we're in the process of crafting the new RFP. And I think Melinda sent that to all of you guys in the last day or so, yes? Okay. So the basic summary of what we're crafting now is a smaller system that covers only the parking lot. It doesn't cover the bus area. The reason for that was twofold. One is, from a financial perspective, oddly the way things are worked out in the SMART program, it's actually better to get a system that is under 250 kilowatts. You get a larger per kilowatt value out of it. And secondly, I at least was worried about the logistics of the bus area, right? There's a maximum of a 65-foot span. I went and measured it. It's 77 feet currently. That means you're going to lose quite a bit of the bus area, right? And so I figured that logistical problem combined with the fact that we're probably not going to make more money by having that thing on top of the bus area really, made it not worthwhile for us to consider that. So we're going to shrink the project down to something that I think is better financially for the town and better for the school as well. So we're basically trying to fast track this proposal because in order to get the financials of it to work out, the company would need to be selected this year, get all the way through site plan review, get through the Board of Selectmen, get through you guys, have everybody approve the design, then they can get it signed off. And as long as they spend a certain amount of money before the end of the year, then it qualifies for 2019 incentives. So we believe that's all possible, but it's a very tight time frame. So the second thing we asked the Board of Selectmen for, which they agreed to, is to do the Interconnect service agreement with Eversource. So the town would pay for that in advance, up to $7,500. When we select a vendor, then that vendor would repay us as we hand them the agreement. So that allows the Eversource interaction to happen in parallel with us selecting a vendor. So that's where we stand right now. And I guess I'm looking for feedback from the school committee. Is this all okay with you guys? Do you have any specifics for the RFP that we should include in it? Do you have any other questions for me? What can I do for you?
I have two, just kind of, it sounds okay to me, but two questions. One is, rough timeline is still the same?
Yes, it ends up being something that would be done next year.
Next summer.
Summer of next year, yeah.
And maybe I have three questions. Two is paving stays in, the paving's its own thing anyway, right?
Yeah, so we also recommended to the Board of Selectmen that we defer paving until next summer, because it makes no sense to pave now and then go tear it all up. And so the Board of Selectmen agreed to that, and then we have since learned that the company who had the lowest bid has agreed that they will do the work next summer instead of this summer at the same price, which is, I think, really awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
And so far that's looking fine. Yeah.
And my last question is, how much, what will, when all is said and done, what's the lease payment or whatever that monetary fallback in that's why you're doing RFP, you don't know that?
We don't know that yet, yeah, we're waiting for the responses. I am hopeful that we will get something back that's very similar to the original proposal. If it's less, hopefully it at least pays for the paving.
Yeah.
Jonathan, when would you need us to be available to you for any sign off that we might have to do?
So the Board of Selectmen has signed off on the RFP that we proposed. I don't know that you guys need to. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it since Melinda sent it, so we don't need anything from you right now.
Okay.
However, if you have any specific feedback for me, we're trying to close it all out by this Friday, and so you can just email your feedback to Melinda or direct to me, it'd be fine. That's all we need right now. Going forward, right, it looks like it's gonna be about 6 weeks from when we produce the proposal until we get the answers back. Add a couple more weeks for us to select a vendor, get the Board of Selectmen on board. Then we're gonna be back to you guys to look at the lease that gets set up. So we're talking September, October timeframe. And that's when you'd be signing off on the lease, probably. Or September, October, November, sometime in there. And I think that's the next major thing we need from you guys, other than feedback of how you want this run.
All right, so if we have feedback, we'll try to get that to you ASAP.
Great, and then we can try to do that
ISA
during one of our meetings or.
Yeah, we'll just schedule it for one of the regular meetings, I think.
Just to make sure that we cover any questions that might
Yeah.
arise.
Yeah, and so I'm happy to come back as often as you want me to be here to give you an update, so just let me know.
Well, we can also put a little bit of that on your plate to say. You think this
Yeah, if
is-
there's anything worthwhile, I'll let you guys know, absolutely. Yeah.
Did we start the process for getting, entering into the ISA?
I did not check with Tim, I don't know if we've done that yet,
Okay,
so
so,
that is.
But we keep our place in line that Amoresco put in for us, is that the theory?
No, I think to do that, we'd have to buy it from them, I don't know if that's on the table or not.
wait, is anyone?
I don't think we've even proposed that to them, so.
No.
Isn't that important? Because isn't that all about?
Yeah, it would be, I think.
But
so.
they presumably they've paid something for that, right? So,
Right.
No, but I mean, you have to pay anyway, but the thing is, at least you get a number, see how much it would cost to. you should
Right.
ask, right?
Yeah, and one of the interesting things that'll come back from this, from the ISA, is the actual cost to connect Eversource in. Because Eversource can charge different amounts of money depending on how big a system. That's one of the factors that factored into this. Is the smaller system, Eversource charges us less.
Right, but I'm thinking more of the, not losing your place in line.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
and Amoresco indicated that they would be putting in a proposal?
Yeah, so I guess they came by the school last week, Tuesday, with Eversource. Is that true?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I had asked them to work through Rob and you, so.
Yeah, they were planning on it.
Rob, but I'm
Well,
not
they should
aware of
put-
the
Maybe
rest
we
of
still
They
have
should
a
call
negotiating.
But they were meeting with Eversource regarding
Tough
I
negotiations.
think somebody
So-
wanted needs to find out.
So I don't know what the state of that is. I'm having,
Delayed because I was-
I mean, the two options are we apply for it as a town, which we're set up to do,
They
yeah.
do that anyway.
Or a transfer, but that's, that's kind of a delicate discussion to have.
Well, you first wait
Depend-
for their bid, I guess.
Yeah,
You wouldn't
right.
transfer unless
Right.
you didn't accept their bid, but if you don't accept their bid, that's sunk money to them, they might
They
cut
might,
you.
right, exactly.
I
And
mean,
then they might
I
want to
wouldn't feel,
recoup it. They might want to
honestly, I wouldn't feel bashful about going back.
I don't think
That's-
it's bashful,
it's
it's just,
specific to the
the
school.
timing, like you said.
Okay, anyway,
But yeah, they
Jonathan.
could stand to recoup some of the money.
so, yes, if you have feedback, get it to me. Otherwise, I will inform Melinda, or Melinda will know every time anything interesting happens.
Okay.
Is the place in line specific to the size of the project, right? Like if you change the scope of the project,
No, it has to do with that interconnection.
Does that change anything with our place in line?
Well, the internet connection service agreement, the ISA, is one of the prerequisites for before being assigned a block number, right? And then the site plan review was the
Yeah, we gotta
second
get all through all
component.
that. So the place in line basically isn't determined until we get through site plan review. That's the main holdup right now. So.
I mean, so it could be material, you know.
Yeah.
If we lost our place and we get a 6-month delay.
Right, that's why we need to do it in
As
parallel.
long as we get an ISA before the
So-
site plan review is done.
Right, so it's about a 3-month process to get an ISA,
But you can
and
apply for that now without jeopardizing the one that's in there with NRES.
as I understand it, yes, but,
So you probably want to do that,
Yeah.
even while you're waiting for responses.
Yeah. and specific to your question, yes, it is a function of the size. You can't make it bigger than what you apply for. You can make it smaller, but not bigger, yeah. So,
Thank you, John.
okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
It's a ever-changing project.
Okay, superintendent evaluation. Mr. Kablatsky, thank you so much for joining us.
Was that what it is?
So, this will be the first time for me ever doing this process, so,
You don't have to read everything.
okay, that's good. Maybe you guys can give me a little guidance about the process here. Because this is a rather lengthy evaluation, we had a lot of components, a lot of things, people had a lot of things to say. Should we go through it for the public meeting?
I think we should.
Yes, okay. All right, so how,
You can tell the goal and you can say how, I mean, for this stuff, you can just say what, and then people can read their,
you read their comments, people can read their own comments, okay. All right, so, student learning is the first goal, ensuring a shared vision of excellence in instructional practices and student achievement among our instructional leadership team. So, over the course of the last year,
You don't know.
no, I won't read the whole thing, but there, Jim details several of the things that we participated in, and he participated in, towards this goal. And the rating is, all members rated this goal as met.
All responding members.
All responding members. All responding members. There are 4 school committee members.
Mary is out
Yeah.
of the country or something.
Right, so David Modell, Josh Kablatsky, Melinda Gambino, and Christine Lear are the school committee members that participated in the evaluation. So professional practice goal, engaging parents, families, and community members in the work of the district by providing opportunities for them to participate in conversations regarding district programming and contemporary educational issues. Jim talked about the progress that was made this year in implementation of the student information system and other work that was done to engage families around the Husky Home Learning Days, our World Language Program, and revamping our middle school structure. So, the committee members' ratings were 3 committee members rated this as met, this goal. 1 committee member rated significant progress towards this goal. Third was the district improvement goal. Developing a shared vision and focus on school improvement within our administrative team. Communicate district objectives and actively engage our administrative team in developing, implementing, and evaluating district improvement strategies. There were several activities that happened this year, including developing the K-8 digital citizenship and literacy strands in the curriculum. Were those developed by us, by you?
Oh, yes. Well, not by me, but Maya and Nick Greenwood were the
Okay.
key.
Okay, that's great. Then expanded coding, drafting, and multimedia opportunities were integrated into the existing curriculums. We had a special presentation by the district attorney's office on digital citizenship and cyber responsibilities. The ArtLink project linked 3rd grade classrooms to classrooms in Kenya, India, and Russia. And other progress around the Alveus program. There's a lot here, Jim, in this section.
There were a lot of goals.
That's right. Do you want me to read all of them, or no? Okay. So for a district improvement goal, 3 committee members rated this goal as met. 1 committee member rated this goal as exceeded. District planning goal. Explore possible models for restructuring resources at the middle school level and seek opportunities to refine processes in grades pre-K through 8 in order to meet the needs of students while also addressing declining enrollments and budgetary restraints. The goal would be to identify approaches that would have a budgetary impact without compromising quality, and the goal would be to identify a number of possible options by the end of the 2018-2019 school year with the intention of piloting a component in 2019-2020. This details, the work that was undertaken over the course of the year to look at our existing model, and the discussion is going to continue. regarding the middle school model, certainly after the implementation of the new schedule, that will be ongoing. So the rating for this goal of district planning, one school committee member rated this goal as met, 2 school committee members rated this goal as significant progress, and 1 school committee member rated this goal as some progress. And I think that as this goal evolved over the year, it became apparent that this was not just something that could be accomplished in 1 year, but rather it would be a multi-year effort. And I think that's part of where that rating came from, at least from my perspective.
I would, I'll add just that there was a goal to implement one thing, and we are implementing the one thing, which is the triad from the diet, in my opinion.
Okay. So superintendent's performance rating for standard 1, instructional leadership. This area refers to curriculum, instruction, assessment, evaluation, data-informed decision-making. All 4 school committee members rated the superintendent proficient in all of these areas. And in this area, there were several comments. So if people would like to read their own comments, if you have it in front of you, that would be great. Starting with Christine Lear.
Okay. Superintendent O'Shea has had another great year. He continues to show his natural respect and enthusiasm for our students, faculty, staff, parents, and guardians. He has worked diligently to be present while looking ahead to prepare CPS for the future. There were times when the response to looking ahead was met with a deep concern by our stakeholders. Jim read the moment, immediately stepped up his interactions with the community. It doesn't mean the conversations were easy, but Jim did not hesitate to reach out to parents and guardians. Superintendent O'Shea has a warm, casual personality that goes a long way towards setting a great tone at CPS. This is not to say he's not incredibly contemplative in all that he does. He is well versed in his role, is eager to participate in professional development, and takes his job very seriously. We are fortunate to have Jim O'Shea for our superintendent.
And I'll read my comment. Jim has demonstrated a steadfast commitment to providing rich and rigorous educational experiences for Carlisle students. Jim has spent time to engage faculty and administration in dialogue about new approaches and educational practices to help students achieve the skills and competencies needed to be successful in their academic careers and to be well prepared for life ahead in today's society. He brings energy and excitement and thoughtfulness to these discussions. Josh.
On the district improvement goal, I would like to see the superintendent identify challenges on the horizon and then motivate and lead the effort to meet those challenges. The district has been slow to adapt to the fiscal challenges we face, to take advantage of declining enrollments in order to reduce and shift spending. The district's SPED budget has been growing unsustainably and faster than the rate of inflation. Long-term success of the district depends on confronting these challenges. As the district delays confronting these challenges, they do not diminish, but the flexibility to address them and the opportunity to try solutions experimentally do diminish.
Okay. Superintendent's performance rating for Standard 2, Management and Operations. This area deals with environment, human resource management and development, scheduling and management information systems, law, ethics, and policies, and fiscal systems. All 4 committee members rated Superintendent O'Shea as proficient in all areas under this standard. And there were also comments, starting with Christine Lear.
Superintendent O'Shea has experienced a lot of operational change this year. He approaches these changes as he does everything with a sense of opportunity. He is inclusive and open-minded in both staffing changes and new technologies. Additionally, Jim has made some decisions that he could have left alone. His appreciation for our students and their experience at CPS made his decision easy, and our entire community will benefit from his choices. Jim has done a fabulous job keeping the faculty and staff together during the extended contract negotiations. He is mindful of the financial stress of the town and protects resources without shortchanging our students. He developed a strong budget and closely monitors it with the business manager.
Josh.
Prudent fiscal management requires comprehensive planning. That process was begun this past year. It should be extended to include regular updates to the multi-year plan comparison of actuals to plan, and adjustment of the planning process.
Do we want to take any time to discuss any of these sections before we move on, or do we want to just get through the whole thing? And then leave a discussion at the end?
Howard, you're the chair.
Okay, so I guess we'll continue then. Superintendent's performance rating for standard 3, family and community engagement. This area deals with engagement, sharing responsibility, communication, and family concerns. 3 school committee members rated Superintendent O'Shea as proficient in all areas under this heading, and 1 school committee member rated Superintendent O'Shea as exemplary under all headings in this area. And there were comments as well, starting with Christine there.
He, as his job requires, is engaged in much of the community and town activities and governance as possible. He easily represents the process, choices, and happenings at CPS with the community at large. Happy to be engaged in the process, it is easy to see that Jim confidently relies on the skills and abilities of his staff and faculty. He's equally comfortable making choices that may not be initially popular, knowing his goal in the long term. And finally, Jim's support and guidance for families at the CPS community during the loss of a beloved student was all that we could ask of him. He continues to be mindful and supportive of those still struggling with this loss.
So in my opinion, Jim excels in the area of communication. He's become much more confident and effective in his communications this year. We had some difficult family issues. Christine alluded to one. There was several others. As chairman, I worked closely with Jim on a lot of difficult issues, and I think Jim always handles them with concern and reaches positive conclusions.
Jim's warm, approachable nature makes him accessible to students and families. He can often be seen talking cheerfully with students, and many students feel comfortable seeking his advice. Jim has taken strides towards improving family engagement by creating opportunities and avenues for families to provide input at parent information sessions and through surveys. Family and community engagement is an area where I believe Jim will continue to develop and grow new approaches for collaborating with parents. For example, engaging families to enable them to better support their students at home and with the community to increase visibility of the school's mission and accomplishments.
In a small district with such capable principals, it would be understandable if Jim were reluctant to undercut his staff through increased direct relationship with community. Yet, if Jim's excellent interpersonal skills were to be applied to more community engagement, it would likely provide the support and the data needed to take the district forward in addressing its challenges.
All right, superintendent's performance rating for standard 4, professional culture. This area deals with commitment to high standards, cultural proficiency, communication, continuous learning, shared vision, and managing conflict. So there were different ratings in different areas. Commitment to high standards. 3 committee members rated Superintendent O'Shea as proficient in this area, 1 committee member as exemplary. Cultural proficiency, 4 school committee members rated Superintendent O'Shea as proficient in this area. Communication, 3 members rated proficient, 1 school committee member rated as exemplary. Continuous learning, 3 proficient, 1 exemplary. Shared vision, 1 school committee member rated as needs improvement, and 3 school committee members rated as proficient. Managing conflict, 3 proficient, 1 exemplary.
Should note the summative is all proficient.
Okay, and in this area and in all previous sections, the summative rating is proficient. And there were any comments? Yes.
One should not assume that Superintendent O'Shea's warm, friendly nature is all that he offers. Jim has a strong commitment to maintaining, if not improving, all that CPS offers to our children. He easily conveys this mission to faculty, staff, and students. He includes students, faculty, and staff, and community members in as many situations as possible, thus assuring that there is ample opportunity for them to contribute to hirings and appropriate committee work. Ultimately, many conversations are held in the open to everyone's benefit. Jim has kept the school committee up to date through weekly emails. It is clear he has open communication with faculty, staff, and students as well. Jim is not afraid to face situations of great concern or conflict. He seems to keep the goal, our children, at the center of his thinking, which lends clarity to difficult topics.
Jim faced challenges this year balancing the interests of various stakeholders through a lengthy teacher contract negotiation. His leadership and professionalism throughout this process were appreciated. Jim maintained an optimistic outlook on things and kept focused on the mission of collaborating with teachers and administration to foster the best possible educational experience for students. Thank you for your perseverance. And Josh?
What is Jim's vision for the district? What will education in Carlisle look like years into the future? You've heard and seen pieces of this. For example, the work with students in other cultures, the integration of engineering projects into the curriculum. It would be nice to hear an articulation of his vision.
The end of cycle, summative evaluation for Superintendent O'Shea.
The first
These
one
are-
just reiterates, I think,
Yeah, these are the overall areas from the beginning of the evaluation. Student learning goals met. So the student learning goals that were discussed earlier, the rating is 4 school committee members rated Superintendent O'Shea as having met this goal. Professional practice goal, there was significant progress with 1 school committee member, 3 school committee members rated as met. District improvement goals. Is this one?
I don't think I did this, I don't think I updated this page.
Oh,
With your changes.
Okay. So the district improvement goal, 1 school committee member rated as some progress. Was there 1 that rated significant progress and 2 that rated met?
it's on the phone. Which one is the not updated thing? District improvement goal? Or district?
I think that's correct. Some significant.
Okay. And district, that wasn't. That was the district planning goal. I'm sorry. So district improvement goals, 4 school committee members rated as met. Sorry about that. And then the district planning goal was 1 some progress, 1 significant progress, and 2 as met. Okay. And again, this was a.
No, but I
think it's 1 some, 2 significant, and 1 met.
Okay. It's a public document, right? People can read it if they care.
Okay. All right, so assessment performance on standards, instructional leadership, all 4 rated as proficient. Standard 2, management and operations, again 4 proficient. Standard 3, family and community engagement, 3 proficient, 1 exemplary. And standard 4, professional culture, 4 committee members rated as proficient. Overall summative performance for Superintendent O'Shea is proficient by 4 school committee members. The rating, the impact on student learning, the scale is low, moderate, and high. 3 school committee members rated as high, and 1 didn't respond to that. 1 didn't.
You can if you want.
It was grayed out.
Oh, was it grayed out?
Yeah.
What was it? High?
And I had a comment on that too. Okay, final comments. Okay, so
Would Mr. Kowalski wish to grade it now?
I do not wish to amend my review of this.
Okay. All right. Evaluator comments, Christine Lear.
There's little doubt that Superintendent O'Shea's performance has positively impacted student learning. His leadership is constant and seems to instill confidence and optimism. He's engaged, but allows staff and faculty to establish and create their own goals and objectives. With this support and inspiration, all ships rise.
Your comments continue, Christine.
No, these are final.
Final comments.
These are different.
He deserves all these words, so I'm going to read them.
Okay.
Overall, our district is fortunate to have James O'Shea as our superintendent. His confidence grows each year, and our students are served well by his leadership. He is fair, firm, and fun, as Sister Trace Higgins used to tell us at Regis College. Jim clearly loves what he does, and it's reflected in the relationships he's built within the school and in Carlisle in general. His passion is based on his respect and dedication to our children. You can see this in action when he interacts with students as well as faculty and staff. He supports all stakeholders to great results. His efforts to maintain a positive cooperative atmosphere while contract negotiations are an excellent example of how Jim keeps the big picture in mind, realizing that you have to get there one day at a time.
In the final year of his first contract, I feel Jim grew comfortable with the role of a superintendent. Our district is small, but we face several challenges. A budget shortfall, a long and difficult collective bargaining agreement negotiation, and an emotional discussion of new approaches to middle school learning. Jim also managed the retirement and replacement of 2 seasoned staff members. The temptation is great for a former principal in a one-building district to become immersed in operational details, kind of what Josh was saying. I know this because that temptation is also at the school committee level. Jim has developed a confident and competent staff that manages through the details and has spent more time thinking about and communicating larger goals. There's still work to do in the areas of exploring new ways of middle school learning, meeting increasing special education needs without reducing the resources available to regular education, and meeting Carlisle's expectations for modest budget increases in an era of no growth enrollment. Jim will need to use his leadership skills to encourage more innovative ideas and implementation from his staff to tackle these challenges while ensuring Carlisle Public Schools remain one of the best places for pre-K through 8 learning. I'm confident that Jim is up to the task.
Me too.
Jim is dedicated to our school's mission of providing the highest quality education for students. He is continuously thinking of new approaches based on research, best practices, and his own experiences that can foster excellent outcomes for our students. Jim's collaborative approach empowers administration and faculty to bring their best ideas forward. Thanks for all your hard work this year.
Jim is a great asset to the district. A competent manager with strong interpersonal communication skills. I would like to see Jim move from steering the ship on a day-to-day basis to charting a multi-year course in navigating the district through it. I hope Jim will be with the district for many years to come. But I also hope that Jim asks himself regularly how he can leave a lasting mark for the better here. The legacy of Jim's leadership will eventually be evident to others, but its intent should be the star by which he navigates.
So,
on those sailor analogies.
At least I'm consistent.
I'm going to give you an opportunity, Jim, to respond to the evaluation, talk about anything that you want to talk about, and then, other school committee members to add more input if.
I would just say it's interesting to hear a lot of positive feedback, which is good, because as I think about reflecting on the experience in the last couple of days, the way things have been going at school, you don't always have that opportunity to hear that and reflect upon that. So I appreciate that, and I thank you all for that. And as always, I thank Josh for kind of keeping me focused on trying to look at the big picture in the long term. And I'm hoping Josh will continue to be I'm trying to think of a salient now. Help me be a sextant for me, right? Is that what you use the sextant to see the North Star or whatever? Or the navigator? But because I always tell Josh when I meet with him, he always comes at it and has me. He makes me take a step backwards and think more deeply about where we are, and I always leave him, any conversation I have with him, thinking about the district in a different way, and I appreciate that. So I appreciate all the comments and all the feedback, and hopefully we'll take that and use it to build as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I think, from my view, I worked very closely with Jim the last 2 years as chairman. And as I mentioned, this was the first 3-year block of, hopefully I agree with Josh, a long, successful career at Carlisle. And the first year, and to a good degree the second year, I think Jim was kind of just learning to be a superintendent, and you had a mentoring partner as well. But I began to feel this year that we had a difficult year. We had some hard things we had to do together. And, I really felt like Jim was very calm, very balanced in his approach. And I do agree with Josh. I think that it's very tempting to be sort of head down through these problems. And, you have a great, it's so obvious now. Nat is just so good and so innovative. And of course, Dennett has been that way. And we have Lori now, we have a new change. So I agree. I would like in the next 3-year block, multi-year block, to pick your head up and really, and some of the stuff that we're challenging ourselves with here. And again, from personal experience, the challenges I feel the special education department needs to tackle in this, very difficult environment where we want extremely high-performing children, but we also want them social, emotionally balanced, and all these other things. It's a big challenge. It's really a big challenge, and I think it's at the forefront of, what a public education can be about. And we're so fortunate because of the small size and the affluence and the commitment of this community, which you have all of that, right, to really be a laboratory. And, you and I had some, I don't want to over-characterize it, but, maybe some tension about how to approach that middle school restructure issue or replanning, and there was contention, and, I did sense a reluctance to branch too far out, but I think we're learning that, you can do that. You do it in a much nicer way than I would do it, so I'm glad you're doing it on me. But, there really is that opportunity, I think, to kind of do what Josh is advocating. So, and I'm going to miss Josh, because he's definitely one of the, as we used to say in management, comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable.
I wish you all the best of luck. I'm impressed with you and your style and your skills. I encourage you, Jim, to move away from responding to changing the game, to identifying the problems before they become problems, and rallying the organization, the community behind you. You can do it. Don't shy away from the danger, but run towards it. You'll be much more successful that way.
I have to say, what you're saying is very important, but I think that the gifts that you have that have brought you through the first 2 years is why this committee can turn to you and put another big challenge on your plate. You just have such a great range of skills that you bring in such a personal way that, my daughter, who doesn't want anyone to notice her, is somebody who knows who you are, and you made a relationship even with someone like her. And so I just, don't forget who you are as you go forward, because you are the gift that will make it.
Those are very nice comments. Very nice comments. I don't even know what else I can say to add to that, because I feel the same way. Feel very good, very comfortable with you, at the helm here. So, really appreciate you, Jim, and everything that you've done this year. It has been a hard year, and you've seen us through it in a great way.
Are you happy with what you accomplished?
We're still in the midst of the year. Still Wednesday. We have 2 more days. And I think we've had a number of challenges, and we still have challenges we're facing, and a lot of them are just what we mentioned, right? How we meet the needs of all of our students, understanding that the resources we have are the resources we have, and we really can't keep going back to the well. We need to think differently about what we do and how we do it, and we need to start making changes.
Before you have to.
Before changes make you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate the comments and the support, and hopefully we'll continue moving towards that North Star, and we will discuss what the North Star is more deeply with everyone too.
Great. I think Josh is saying, be brave.
No, I know.
And you have everybody
identify
else
where you want to go, share where you want to go, and then move towards it.
Thank you, Josh.
ask to have it.
Thank you, Josh. So,
Thank you, everybody.
municipal, Mr. Kowalski, municipal facilities.
Can you stay for a minute? Oh, sure.
So, I understand that have you resigned or are resigning from municipal facilities, or your term is ending?
My term is ending. I conceived of it, had it chartered, it got rechartered. With its recharter, there was opportunity for a one-year appointment. I took the one-year appointment, which I guess ends the end of this fiscal year in a few more weeks.
Okay.
So
They've reached out to ask the school committee for a new representative.
So maybe I can give a little bit of background and my thought on that. I've also done a number of years in the Long-Term Capital Requirements Committee. And a lot of the capital requests that come in are facilities related. The town now has a body of facilities experts, so to speak, that the long-term capital requirements, who are not facilities experts, can consult with to say, does this make sense? Is this the right thing to do? So when the school then comes before long-term caps with a facilities request, long-term caps will then ask facilities, does this make sense? If Municipal Facilities Committee is to have any say in what goes on with the school buildings, my belief is that the school should be appointing at least one member of that committee. Currently, the charter doesn't call for that. And the charter would need to be redone to both allow for that and allow for the Facilities Committee to weigh in on buildings that include the school, because the present charter excludes the school. So my suggestion is to hold the selectmen to that rechartering and not simply to accept a one-time, yeah, you pick somebody and we'll put them on. Because that's fundamentally different from saying the school has a seat at the table in deciding the school's buildings.
Okay, I did not realize that.
That's why I thought I'd mention it.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Also, just to let you know, some other things that are going on, there's quite a bit of work to do for the Facilities Committee, not only overseeing the projects, the many maintenance projects, we're also looking to hire somebody to oversee the police station refurbishment. And the school already has a system where it catalogs most of the assets that require maintenance and are depreciable. Not all, but many. The town, outside of the school, would like to move to adopt a similar approach and perhaps even the same system. This requires a lot of inventorying and database work. The guy we've got overseeing the facilities projects is good at supervising contractors, at getting bids. Data entry is not his thing, and it would not be a wise use of his time. We're looking to bring on somebody else part-time to do those things. And as part of that, there's an intersection between facilities and energy task force, and we're hoping that that intersection can help in two ways. First, that a member of the energy task force can be appointed to the facilities committee, and also that this other person that's working part-time for facilities can spend some of their time writing energy task force grants.
Is this a new person?
Yes.
This is the new person that was hired for part-time.
This is a new person that has not been hired yet, but will go before the personnel board this summer.
For the creation of the position?
For the creation of a new position. The hope and expectation is, a little background, let me back up a second. The Energy Task Force is a volunteer committee that's put in a lot of time and gotten quite a bit of money to fund things in town. They're burnt out. And we've asked of them more than one can ask of a volunteer committee in terms of actually doing work. Volunteer committees are good for oversight. They're not good for doing things. And so the right way to do that is to have a grant writer. The thought is a single good hit pays for that position. A single hit a year pays for that position. So if that's combined with facilities work, because energy and facilities do go hand in hand, then that can help us on the facilities side and on the energy side. So that they're looking for two ads to the facilities committee, one being from Energy Task Force, the other being from School Committee. To make these ads requires a charter change. I suggest you make sure the charter change includes school appointment. I further suggest that, unlike the region, that you argue that the school committee appointment can be anybody the school committee chooses, not necessarily an elected school committee member. It'll broaden your base of people that you can choose from.
Would you like to do anything about that?
Not this year, maybe in the future, but I
Well, so we're just discussing the suggestion that the charter should be redone to ensure that
Yeah.
a school committee member is appointed.
Well, he's twinned it. It's appointed and also has oversight. So when the thing was formed, maybe, the school committee was really against, because it was unknown, was against having yet another layer to go through when we managed our own buildings. I think, and because we are the largest owner of physical structures in the town, or the biggest physical structures, and we are the only one that has a dedicated full-time person, and in fact the whole crew, that does nothing but take care of the buildings. So we said, gee, we know how to do our buildings. We don't really want to go through 3 layers to change light bulbs, right? Now, that's not to say when you have a new building project and stuff that you don't. You have the normal oversight. We're just talking about maintaining normal buildings. Now that it's been in existence for 1 year, 2 years, how many years is it?
The committee has been around for 2 years. It was initiated asking the town spent money on a architectural facility study of 4 buildings. And then when that study came back, the selectmen formed a committee to review it and make recommendations on the basis of it. That was 2 years ago.
Right. So I think, Josh's vision for this, and it is really Josh's vision, was absolutely right. And, aging structures, all these assets, all these considerations, it really does need that specialty focus, and having a guy like Rob Furtado on that in an advisory or whatever he is, I mean, that's very important. And, what's good for others should be good for us. So if we're saying that, we should have a common approach to how we re-window for e-glass or roofing contractors and practices we use, we should apply that across the town. I mean, we shouldn't have little fiefdoms of people who do different things, right? So I think regardless of whether the school has professional staff to do this and say the police don't, doesn't matter. I mean, once we decide to standardize, I think we should standardize. And so as long as it's balanced, I think the oversight feature that this committee would have on all things building is fine. But we have to be very careful not to get too wrapped up in a bureaucratic, and I'm not leveling this as a criticism of the people who were there, but this is always, and I'm saying this on public TV, I don't want to become conquered. Whatever we do, I don't want to be conquered, because I can see it, I knew it before, and I really know it now. There's all these layers, and everybody's going to go through these filters. And if we have to set that up, that's not good for us. We need to make sure that we do things in a common sense way. But I can see where you're going with it, and I guess I'm saying I'm personally not as opposed to it as I was when it was an unknown.
Well, even if you're opposed to it, and I can understand the reasons to be opposed to it.
Yeah.
Understand the process that's going to be followed when the school requests capital expenditure. It's going to go before long-term caps, which is by bylaw, the group that reviews that.
Right.
That group's body of expertise in facilities that it calls on is municipal facilities.
So the question really is, we want to have an appointed voting member from the school committee seated on the municipal facilities committee. Yes. My feeling is yes. The question that Josh asked was, does it necessarily have to be a school committee member, or can it be a designee, somebody designated by the school committee? Is there...
My suggestion would be to draw that as broad as possible. Then this committee can then decide
who to appoint.
Exactly. Right. But if it's already by charter limited, you don't have that flexibility.
Rob. And I think that's not Rob participates in that committee, but I think that the voting member needs to be a school committee member or designee.
The chair, is Jerry is the chair now?
Jerry is the chair, most likely John's going to be the chair next year.
What's next year, though? Next year?
July
New
1st.
fiscal year, so.
July 1st.
I think we were invited, right, by Jerry?
Yes,
Bring
they're
them
looking
in.
for us to.
So there was
to
no
send up a
bylaw
member.
change. He can invite who he wants, I guess, without.
Yeah, and they're looking for us
Well,
to send up a
he
member.
invites, as it's currently defined, the selectmen make the appointment. So
Yeah.
he'll write a letter to them saying, please appoint these two people, and they'll say, here's your appointment.
Sure.
So the other piece, to change the bylaw to give them purview over the school, you're saying effectively it is already that way because we have to go to long-term caps and caps is going to turn to municipal, right?
Effectively, that's already going to happen.
So, I mean, we should start, it seems to me, we should start by appointing somebody, be part of the process, see how it evolves, and then, you know, and then they can be part of the group that is considering, or that person is going to be part of the team that decides how one would, if one was to rewrite the bylaw, what that should say. I mean, I'm certainly comfortable with any one of the five here.
So there is a bylaw for municipal facilities, but that isn't the charter for this committee. This committee is chartered solely as a selectmen's committee.
Okay. This committee.
The Municipal Facilities Committee, in its present and most recent last year's, as in 2018 incarnation, were selectmen come up with a committee, not the town meeting comes up with a committee. The town meeting did come up with the idea of a municipal building committee 40, 50 years ago. This isn't part of that.
How many are on the committee?
5.
How many are actually on right now?
Yeah. Sorry?
How many are actually on that'll stay on next year? Do they need people or do they?
They need people. Well, I'm out. I think Steve might be out as well.
So, you have been serving both on long-term caps and municipal facilities. Is there some benefit to having the same person serve both of those committees, or does that not matter from the school committee standpoint? If it were.
I could see some benefit, but the long-term caps job is more of a finance and financial planning question. The facilities is a facilities issue. You might have somebody with the intersection of those skills and interests. I would go for expertise in either one of those as separate before I said I'd compromise. You know, if you have that available, before I'd compromise getting somebody who doesn't know about facilities on the facilities committee just to have a school person there.
But on the long-term caps, that's by definition or bylaw that
that's
school
by
sends
bylaw.
one and that you were it.
Yes, that bylaw was updated, I believe, in 2013. And the intent of several intents of that update. One of them is it made the committee much closer to a FinCom.
Right. I remember that part. I remember that part. But in that particular one, does a school committee member have to serve, or can the school committee designate somebody to serve?
I do not recall. I think it was designed such that the terms would line up with the terms of school committee.
What I think I'd like to do, though, is designate somebody from the school committee now to fill that position and then to fill that seat.
Did you have somebody there last night?
Where?
Long-term caps?
For long-term caps, I went to long-term caps, yes.
So you were designated?
No, I was designated.
She is, I'm sorry, I was talking
She's
about municipal
talking
facilities.
about
I'm talking about municipal facilities. I'd like to have somebody from the
Yeah,
school committee
basically.
seated on that committee now. And then if we decide later, you know, once this charter is discussed, and we decide that it can be a designee, somebody designated by the school committee, then we can revisit it then. But to fill that role now, I think that if somebody was willing to volunteer, or somebody had the interest to do that, we're looking for a volunteer.
It's just a piece of information that may either help encourage or dissuade you. It meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m.
Every Tuesday morning?
Like once a month, you mean?
No.
Every week?
Every Tuesday
Like every week. There's a lot of work in it. It's probably one of the most productive and functional committees I've served on in town. I'm not committing that it's going to be that way in the future, but at least recently it's. They do a lot of good stuff.
So why couldn't it be Rob?
Well, Rob is
Rob is already there.
Rob is attending those meetings, as far as I know, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible that if there's not, depending on the agenda, the school committee
Rob
members
might-
that need to attend
So
every
Rob brings a
meeting.
valuable perspective to it, but it's not the perspective of a town's taxpayer when it comes to figuring out what do we do with the DPW roof.
Mm-hmm.
I know, but I guess my concern is, I'm speaking, again, maybe personally, but we have such a small committee of 5. We have, by mandate, and I wouldn't do it this way if I were king, two of those serving members have to go on region, which immediately doubles at least their workload.
Yeah.
And we're living it right now. So they're kind of off at which on that committee, you have to serve on 3 or 4 other committees if you're on that committee. So that's like a big lift. Then we've got a chairperson, and that's a big job. And then we've got, 2 people left, and they're doing FinCom, or I guess, and, long-term, and I don't know what you're on, but
I don't know yet either.
Stuff.
Policy?
I'm just saying.
Policy.
So to get involved in helping the DPW figure out its roof, I really don't care.
Well, I also
You know, I
think,
mean, that's
but I
just-
also think that Rob, as the facilities manager, as you said, for
Well,
the
you
largest
do it, of course
facility.
you should be
No,
in the
no, but what I'm saying is, since he has the largest load in terms of the town, someone managing a very big campus, I'm glad he's there already, but it would be great to have him there in an official capacity, just because
He's
He
ex
is- he is
officio
there.
already.
He is,
Okay,
yeah.
alright.
So I think, it's not every week that school items are on the agenda. And Rob is there representing the school. We know, do you have to go every week, is what I'm asking?
So for example,
You're
the
on the
last
committee.
meeting, it came up, the elevator service. And what we're trying to do is sync the elevator service contracts, because they start charging every time they roll from wherever their base is, and they like coming every 2 months to do it in a different elevator, because they get to charge for all their travel time. And it makes sense.
Do we have one service company for all the elevators in town?
We're trying to get to that point, and even then, it's still 6 different service days.
But that's a perfect job for Rob. That doesn't need a school committee member, right?
That's an example of a case where Rob is there talking about facilities that are not necessarily school facilities, but in which we're
I'm
not
happy to
debating
volunteer
school.
Rob's time. Rob is on the clock at 8
And he
o'clock.
has a good, and he has expertise.
We're getting kids out the door, maybe they're out the door by then, but we're the nighttime government, I guess is my point. He's the daytime government, so.
He's already there.
Right, he's
And
already
he's
there.
not a taxpayer.
And he's not a taxpayer.
But so what?
So
Does he not
what-
represent the school?
So my suggestion then would be to hold off on an appointment and to talk to your friends and neighbors.
Yeah.
Find out who might want to represent the school in that regard.
No, that's a good point.
And if they can only be there when school's on the agenda or known on the agenda, okay, they'll be more effective and contribute more if they're there all the time.
Right.
But at least that way, the school's interests.
No, and that's a good idea. I mean, somebody
But if you're a
maybe who's
group of
retired
5,
might,
You want to have that, you
might
don't want to
like
have a member that doesn't fully participate. I mean, I guess
That's a
you know what I
good,
mean.
so we could solicit volunteers.
So is that what we're doing?
It's usually the 5 you knows 10 people.
I can't, it's not my call because somebody has to volunteer
Eventually
if
gotta be
that's
somebody.
not what we're doing. What's that?
You probably, if you each know, 5 or 10 people in the construction field or industry or contractors of some sort, between those 50 people, there's got to be somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who could do
All right, we might know some people.
Yeah, we know some people.
We know some
We can-
people.
we can-
Okay, so we'll let them know that we're still thinking on this.
And
Get back to
you didn't ask me for a committee report, but there's good news from last week. It might be in the mosquito. I didn't check. The cost in the police station is coming down.
Good, and they're gonna have somebody managing part-time.
We've been working on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's good, and I
But
think.
the cost is coming down.
That's very good too, like 600, what are you saying?
Yeah.
So, I also like the idea that they have a paid resource that's gonna be looking out for that project, and I think that we should be doing that more in town. When we have special projects that come up, that somebody is on the payroll to keep an eye on it and manage it. The other thing I was thinking of, just as we were talking about the division of responsibility, I had an idea at one point about the regional representation in town.
And I don't know if it's, I'm just gonna throw it out there because I think it might help with the, I don't know how viable it is to do it at any point in the future, but it's just an idea that people can think about. Right now, the way it's structured is that we have 2 school committee members that are appointed to go to serve on the region from this school committee. And another possibility could be that the school committee appoints one person from this committee to go and serve on the region, and then holds an election for a second representative from Carlisle.
I don't think that would work because it's not part of the regional charter.
Yeah.
And
Wait till
if we have to renegotiate the regional charter, we'd be in a tough spot.
Well, they're already, in the committee reports, we're going to address that. That's on the table, but we're going to swat it down.
Yeah, well, they may want to renegotiate it, but...
No, we're going to swat it down. I mean, we plan to swat it down.
Yeah, but that would be necessary in order to do that type of thing.
Right.
I know, I realize that.
But I was saying, when I made the "if I was king" comment, I would do that, because why overburden,
If I had a chance, I'd make a king day.
Not so much.
No, only Trump, we only have one king in this country. That's supposed to get political.
So anyway, that's just an idea to put in the back of your mind if it ever comes up in the future. It could be one way to, change the representation.
Right, but we have, I mean, for the subject at hand, it sounds like we do have the flexibility. Jerry's asking for a volunteer, he's asking you to have a volunteer, but that doesn't mean that person has to wear the school committee vest when they.
Also, many of you have been involved in town for a number of years. It's the same very limited set of characters.
Well, that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem.
And so saying, well, we could pick somebody else to do this, if we had somebody else, they'd already be doing it.
Well, I think people like to be asked, and
So I have to ask about how that would work, how the voting would work. So if somebody was representing the school committee's interest at municipal facilities, they would need to attend these meetings to determine how the school committee is going to vote on something, right? I mean,
not necessarily.
No.
They wouldn't. I never took direction from this committee on how to vote. I was at all the
just
meetings,
representing it.
Yeah, I just represented it, and I came back and would give a committee report.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, the same would be true for the committees that I've sat on, Melinda, is that I didn't couch my vote either way.
Yeah, no, right, you're right, I know, I'm just thinking that the person's not part of this committee officially, then it would be, I don't know. But yeah, I guess you're right.
It's a question.
I'm right now a selectman, Board of Selectmen appointee to the Facilities Committee. Do you think I'd take direction from them on how to vote?
no, I think it's a good comment. If we would entrust the person we recommended to represent our interests, and yes, that person should, to your point, should attend the portion of our school committee meeting where committee reports are requested, and we can have a discussion, and that would be part of the assignment. That person wouldn't have to go into 3 hours of meetings for that.
Right, okay.
Pleasure.
Okay.
But a lot of good ideas.
All right, so the way we'll leave it is then we'll search for a volunteer to represent the school. I mean,
It doesn't have to be from the school committee, that we can really.
Unless I hear somebody right now that says they want to jump on.
It's a lot to ask.
It is. Josh, you're amazing. You were doing all those meetings.
That's
Just taking a little time off.
Is he relaxed he is now? Well, he's like,
Not yet, but I'm hoping to get there.
Soon. Fiscal year is
Tomorrow.
almost over.
I walked out of the Facilities Committee after the election, and I said, well, nice working with you guys. Maybe I'll see you in the future. They said, where are you going? Your appointment lasts until July 1st.
all right. Good to see you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
So we're just tabling it?
We're gonna look for a representative, a volunteer to represent the school. Okay.
Oh, we don't have to vote on this, do we?
You supposed to vote on it?
No, we can just look it up. Okay, good.
It's homework.
Homework, okay, that's right. Okay, summer meeting, did everybody bring their schedule? We're gonna,
So I think we have it narrowed, so 4 people have responded, and they've all responded that they can make it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, July 29th, 30th, 31st. Nancy Anderson, I'm sad to report, cannot make it on those days. There's only one person who has not responded. Have you responded, Melissa?
yeah, I thought I did.
Did you?
Am I the one person that didn't respond?
I believe so.
I recall a conversation where you said you would respond.
So are you available in July?
Oh,
Are you available the 29th?
I'm like, what did you that in? I've been saying this, like, one person didn't respond. I'm like, who could that have been?
Are you available the 29th or 30th?
She did answer you.
Okay, I thought I'm sorry.
Well, no, she answered that she was checking her calendar. I was at that meeting.
Okay, the 29th is a Monday.
We can't do it that anyway, because we can't have.
I can do,
No, those were the only opportunities those were the only days where the
Yeah.
committee members could make it, and sadly Nancy couldn't make it. But there were no other days where all the committee members could make it.
We heard Dave I'll volunteer to take notes.
I'll take notes.
All right,
I
so
can do it.
So we want to do Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, since all 3
Not
days are in
Wednesday.
play? Monday or
Well, is
Tuesday?
Wednesday, wait a minute, Wednesdays are
No,
normal
you can
day.
say no, we have, just help us narrow it down.
Yeah,
Monday or
just pick
Tuesday?
Or Wednesday.
Monday.
I'm available.
Monday.
Monday, the 29th?
Sounds good.
Are we gonna do a potluck, or are we gonna?
No, we'll do.
Order out?
We'll order out like we did last time.
Okay.
What time you want to do it? At 6 then?
Yeah, that would be nice.
6?
Monday
6
the
o'clock
29th at 6.
on Monday,
Monday,
the 29th.
And you don't want CCTV, which, I'm sorry, it's been a media network, you don't want MMS.
No, we don't.
Oh, that's that kind of executive?
It's not executive,
It's
no.
not, okay.
No.
But, no.
But we don't.
We haven't traditionally had them in the summer. but I
Right,
just
no, that's, yeah,
wanted
that's
to
fine.
confirm.
No, we don't need to.
No offense.
Are
Alright.
we gonna have a community room?
Well, thank you.
Here, or the,
Here, in this room?
Yeah, we'll do it here.
Yes.
It's just the best space.
Is there a July?
let's see on the 6 p.m.
All right.
Okay,
You
and
should
then,
give people, well, you should give people some homework. You wanna have one this week.
okay, so, traditionally the summer meeting is a workshop, sort of, so to speak. It's a goal-setting meeting for the coming year. So we come with our ideas and the discussion around what are the goals for the school committee for the coming year. So be thinking about that between now and then. Is there anything else you want to?
No, that's good. Broadly, it can be goals. We should set goals. It'd be a good time to begin the goal setting. And broadly, it's a more reflective meeting, right? The things that we've gone through, what we've heard, where we broadly, and I think, to echo Josh, we should help Jim in the mission of strategic guidance of this district. And that's an opportunity. We do get bollocks down in all these details, DC trips and this and that. I mean, it's important stuff, but this is a nice time where there's hopefully not a lot of immediate tactical things to think about. Think about it. Like, why did you get involved in school committee? What do you love about Carlisle School? What would you like to improve? It's kind of more free-flowing, and maybe hopefully we get a little more sense of we as a committee, because we're a very young committee right now, right? We've got 2 brand new members, one who's been only a year, and then us, So we're changing in our philosophy of the committee, and I think it's in my opinion, it's a good opportunity to come together on some ideas. And unfortunately, because of open meeting law, that's the only way we can do that. We can't go out and have a few beers and talk about it. It's just
You
aggravating.
just got to invite me and everybody else.
No, you can't even. I'd be fine having open meeting and say it's at, Trails End. But you can't. I don't think you can.
You can, as long as you can reasonably, you have to be aware that you could reasonably accommodate anybody that comes.
I thought you can have it outside of town.
Oh, outside of town?
Outside of town.
Huh.
Where are you gonna go in town? Ferns?
We gotta get Ferns, yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying, I was told you couldn't even do that because I wanted to have it in my house one time.
Yeah, you can, it's
You
just that you
can.
have to reasonably accommodate.
You have to be wheelchair accessible and
5,000
everything else.
people, that's the problem.
Yeah, and right, if everybody down it's at David Modell's house, so they're all gonna come, because they're like, oh, that's cool.
Can we go see his house?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's an idea for the future, I'll think about that.
An outdoor meeting.
But they will ask you, the town clerk will ask you if your house is handicapped, you don't have
It could be worse.
As long as it's on one level, is that
Meets all the
a
criteria.
definition or just practical?
Threshold has to be wide enough, not
Yeah.
symbols.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. I know, because I had a meeting at my house before, so I had these questions.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we're gonna get all
Committee was
sorts
fine.
of, not a school committee meeting though.
We'll get all sorts of input.
Okay, so, anything else anybody wants to say about that July meeting? We're gonna have, we're gonna order dinner, so do people have any, like, food allergies or food considerations? Anything they're avoiding to eat? Favorite thing? Type of food? Okay, you're making it easy for me, great.
Well, you should distribute the load, distribute the responsibility for, like, somebody bring drinks.
Oh, okay, yeah, so we can do
You can
that.
do that by email.
Okay, sure.
I don't think you violate open meeting.
No, we don't have to deliberate about who's bringing the cups. Okay, so meeting schedule, has everybody had a chance to look at the meeting schedule the proposed meeting schedule for the coming year?
Yes, Christine did, and she noted that June 20th was late, and I meant to write June 10th, so.
June 20th. June 20th is a Saturday also.
Oh, really?
I was just testing to see if people were reading it.
Sure.
Okay.
In the 8th of
As
October
fun
is
as
Yom
this is.
Kippur, so we move that to the following week, correct?
Is the 16th is where you moved it to?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So can
Is
you
it
read
the
the
16th?
dates by month?
September 11th, October 16th, November 13th, December 11th, January 8th, February 12th, March 11th, April 15th, May 13th, and June 10th.
And it's, I'm sorry, refresh, April 8th is, what's April 8th?
I don't know,
It's another.
is April 15th during the school vacation week?
No,
It's not,
It's another.
okay.
no, April,
Is it
the
a holiday?
vacation is late, because the 19th is a Sunday.
All right, so
So
as long
vacation starts
as
the
none of these are during a vacation or,
No, and they were holidays, that's why I moved
okay.
to the following week.
Do we take a vote on this? Okay,
Yeah.
can I get a motion?
I move the proposed meeting dates for the coming school year, for 2019-2020.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, great. Communications and correspondence, anything that went around?
We don't have any.
It's just the MASC bulletin, you guys all get that, right?
Yeah, I think so, by email?
Just have to
Did you ever
email.
start receiving the Mass Association of School Committee emails?
I haven't. Have you?
No.
I haven't.
No? Okay,
Did-
just need,
I got.
How do we get them registered on the
somebody
MASC?
forwarded,
they should get signed up for like the emails, so you can either send them a link to do it yourself if you want to sign up for the newsletter and for the,
Yeah.
Interesting.
or
The newsletter.
Nancy can help.
MASC.org should get you there.
There is a blog, the newsletter's not particularly useful, but the blog is not bad if you have time.
And were we having Dorothy come in September? Did we schedule that?
We haven't scheduled that, and we had discussed that.
We're working on.
I suggested that, I talked to her and suggested that she come out, and she seemed interested, so,
Okay,
you know, it's just a reach out. You guys decide, and you're setting the agenda.
yeah.
Decide if September's pretty busy because new start stuff, maybe you want to do it October, or maybe you want to get it out of the way in September. I mean, I can't remember.
Well, we'll contact Dorothy and see what works for her, and if that's a constraint anyway.
Right, but from
But
our
otherwise, we should shoot
standpoint.
for the October meeting.
October's probably better, yeah.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Member committee reports.
I have a little.
Did I skip you?
Skip the
Yeah, you skipped
superintendent.
me, that's okay.
He's
Okay.
still basking in the glow. It was
Yes.
great.
I forgot to wear my normal glasses. Okay, Jim,
Okay,
talk
so
about the elevator, Jim.
I'm gonna start with, just to give you an update on, our enrollment and class sections, I think.
Oh, good.
Cynthia, would you like one of?
Yes, please. I like yours.
So this just shows our enrollment to date, along with our. Can you get one to say? Do you have one?
Oh, no.
I can pull it up on my computer. Hold on, take this. Yeah, you can have that one.
What's happening?
No, you
Never mind.
You already put
Take it, I got it right here. So the first column has our grades, second column is the projected enrollment. That's from when we did our budgeting back in October, and our projected sections, the average class sizes. And then the fifth column shows our current enrollment. So over the course of the past 5 months, we've had a number of families who have either moved at the district or have moved in but haven't started sending their children. We can see that the enrollment numbers for next year are slightly, well, they've changed. In the kindergarten, we're under-enrolled compared to what we projected. We thought we'd have 55 to 57, we have 48. But when we get into grade 1, we're above our projection at 60. 2, we're at the outskirts of our projection at 64. 3, we're significantly above our projection at 68. 4, above our projection at 66. 5, above our projection at 68. 6, we're at the outskirt at 78. 7, we're slightly above our projection. And 8, we are at the low side of our projection, 73. So right now we're projected to have 608 students in school, starting on the end of August. I've highlighted 2 grade levels. So 5th grade level, we initially projected that we would have 4 sections. And since then, we've decided we were going to go with the triad model, so we will have 3 sections in 5th grade. That's why it's highlighted in the peach. And we're looking at 22 students per grade level. In the 3rd grade, we had projected we would have 3 sections. But we ran into a challenge that we had was with the enrollments increasing to 68 students. That's a significant increase. So we'd be looking at 3 sections of 22 or 23 students.
Which grade, I'm sorry?
This is the 3rd grade, highlighted in green. And that was compounded by the problem of the profile of that class. The profile of the class and the needs inherent in all the students in the class was going to make that a very challenging situation for our 3rd grade teachers, which would become a challenging situation for the 3rd grade students being in large classes where the needs are pretty significant. We looked at a number of options. We looked at if we went to 3 sections in 1st grade and transferred one of those educators up to 3rd grade, with the possibility of doing it in 2nd grade. These were some of the possibilities we explored. Each of them, there were trade-offs and there were negative implications for different groups of students. After much deliberation and running a few different processes, we decided that it was best to open that 4th section, but we couldn't hire a new teacher, so we had to reallocate our math specialist, who is a certified elementary school teacher. So the plan is for 1 year, we'll have our math specialist cover the 3rd grade class. Of course, there's a trade-off, right? As we do that, we're going to lose math support for elementary students. But the idea and the hope is that by keeping the class sizes smaller, again, continuing with the process of universal design for learning, where we can hopefully differentiate the instruction within those class sections to meet the needs of the students where they are, that we can work to minimize some of the loss that we will incur from having the math specialist not be available to our students at that time. So there's we looked at the trade-offs. We think this is best for all of the students in the elementary school, so that's the direction we're going. But there are costs, right? There are costs.
And just to be clear, our own internal guidelines, which are just purely CPS generated standards, the 2 through 4 grades are fewer than 21. And had you gone with 3 sections, you'd be 23. Which sort of violates our own norms.
Not like that, but you have 64 kids in
What?
2nd and 66 kids in 4th.
I'm sorry, too many people talking.
No, that's okay.
Cynthia?
That was 16 to 18.
So it's 16 to 8. It's less than 18 in the
elementary.
1, 2,
Then it goes up to
it goes up
21.
in 3 and 4.
Right. So it'll be 17, which is below either one, but had we not added the section, it would be
We would have been
23, which is a
21,
lot, you know, in that grade because of, so.
Are there 2 math specialists?
We have 1 full-time math specialist, and then we have a person who does math support for our student.
Throughout the whole school?
Throughout the elementary school also.
Elementary, awesome. But, so there's a separate math specialist for middle school?
No. So most of the direct student service is provided by the math specialist in the elementary school. The math specialist does consult with the middle school and has pushed into one of the 6th grade math classes. I think it's three times a week.
So the tier 2 support for math is not done by the math specialist, or that it?
No, at the elementary school, the preponderance of the tier 2 support in math is provided by the math specialist. We do have the other paraprofessional support person provides some math support. And the idea is we're going to look to our elementary school teachers as we move towards universal design for them to make tier 1 more robust in the classroom. But we can phrase it any way we want, but there's a trade-off as we make this move. There's a trade-off. So that's just a couple of changes we want.
Are you also, you anticipate a co-taught section in grade 3, in one of the sections?
Yes.
Is it co-taught?
Yes.
Right, so, again, not to anticipate or even understand what the makeup of that second class is, but one can think that perhaps the ones who need more supports are in the co-taught section.
For that grade, but the.
For that grade, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we'll be able.
But the other grades, right?
But we are gonna have to allocate additional special we're not gonna be able to cover the 3rd grade needs with 1 person in that co-taught class. We're gonna need to allocate additional resources.
Okay.
So that's one piece. We can talk about the elevator. So we've tried to keep you abreast of the developments with the elevator over the past couple of weeks. We met last night with a joint meeting of the selectmen and the finance committee to discuss the elevator. For a number of years, the elevator has been on the long-term capital plan, and each time it's come up, it's been decided we will go as long as we possibly can without replacing the elevator to try to get as much use life out of it. Even though we knew it was, on the horizon of use was limited, and the replacement parts were becoming more difficult to get. So as we moved that forward, we knew this day would come, and the day finally came about 2 weeks ago. The elevator, the hydraulic lift blew and needed to be replaced. We brought Associated Elevator in, they looked at it, they gave us an estimate to fix the hydraulics, which was about $65,000. We also asked for an estimate to replace the whole system, because we could put $65,000 into it and then something else goes and we'd be spending additional money. So the replacement cost for the whole system came back at about, the second piece was $95,000, so it was about $165,000 in its entirety to replace the elevator system. And then we thought there'd also be some residuals with regard to water testing and soil testing, because the hydraulic fluid, the oil that runs the hydraulics, somehow disappeared. So the idea that as it disappeared, it leaked and went to the ground. So there were additional costs that will go along with the cleanup of
That's included in your estimate?
No, that's additional.
That's additional.
Do we know for sure that there's?
The estimate,
It has to be tested.
the total estimate was about $185,000. We thought that would be to cover everything. So
There's also the electrical panel and the connections for the electrical piece is another, what is it, 10, 20?
He said maybe 10.
the estimate we initially sent to Scott at FinCom was about 185.
185,
Just,
okay.
that should cover everything we needed. We met with Tim Goddard and Bonnie at Town Hall to talk about where we could get funding, Priscilla actually at the first meeting, where we could get funding from, and we talked about the possibility of getting some of the end of the year funds that might be available now, possibly filing with the insurance company, so we filed with the insurance company, we have a claim. And then at last night's meeting when we met again, the idea is that we do have a claim with the insurance company. They may be coming through with some funding.
Claim was for equipment failure.
Yeah, and that could be significant, so that could be, I'm not sure, but it could be significant. We asked the finance committee and the selectmen voted to fund the replacement out, I think they call it deficit funding from next year.
For this year.
No, for next year. So
It
the deficit,
enables you to do a
the
purchase
deficit
order
funding
now.
from next year ensures that the money is there so we can
After.
start entering into those agreements
Yeah.
this year.
Right.
Knowing that we can still, once they've guaranteed the money's there, but we can still use money from the end of this year as it becomes
Either way,
available.
you can use
Plus the
this year's
insurance
or
money.
next year's.
Yeah.
It's just all available.
Because otherwise, I mean, if it's unspent, it rolls to free cash anyway, right, so.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so I think that's the plan.
So
Insurance is
unspent
gonna come
long-term
in?
caps monies that we haven't expended.
Correct.
Long-term cap.
Right. Was this a vote by FinCom or by long-term caps?
No, this was the selectmen.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So the selectmen voted that they approved deficit
I see, okay.
for next year,
Okay.
which gives us it assures that the money's there so we can enter into the agreements with Associate Elevator. But once the insurance money comes in, we can use that. We can use whatever is left at the end of this year, and then we'll know what the deficit spending needs to be for next year. Hopefully, the insurance company can do that. So we're going to start the process of getting Associated Elevator and making contracts, because this is probably a 4-month turnaround. It's going to take that long to order the parts and get everything delivered and then start installation.
But if there's remediation, that one could be even longer, right? If they test and they find contamination, they get to dig it out.
Well, I think that will take place in the initial stages while they're waiting for the cab.
Is the same associated would do no, that remediation would have to be a different vendor.
DEP.
Well, DEP supervisors, they actually do it?
I actually don't know that.
Okay.
It was my understanding, based on the quote, that it was built into Associated's quote. I could be mistaken.
I would be surprised.
But the town has a vendor they use to test all the sites around the fire department. So that.
It was just the test and this.
Right, but they must have somebody to remediate too, because they've done it before.
Clean Harbors or something
Yeah.
like that, you can.
But it should be pointed out that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, but the decision was made not to RFP it for 2 reasons. One is Associated knows the system the best, and they're the approved vendor for the Commonwealth or something.
They're on the state list.
And 2, it's an emergency.
It is an emergency situation, so we don't have to.
So by doing that, we pick up a month in time, because
Which
were
we
you to
need
RFP
as
it, you'd have to
place-
wait for the whole RFP,
Right.
and that would be a month longer. So
Right.
it was determined that
They declared it.
number one, you wouldn't save money. 2, you might end up with a vendor you don't really know,
Right.
and it would be a month later. So why do that?
So we're able to move it forward now.
Yes.
Good.
That's good.
So hopefully it'll be, now we just hope we can get it done sooner rather than later. Couple other updates we have. So hiring for next year, as we got to meet Lori Bruce this evening, so Lori's on board. We've hired a health and wellness PE person making coffee. We hired a French teacher, Marie-Laure Riviere, a Carlisle resident. We've hired our special education teacher, Laura Marshall. She was an interim, and now we've hired her full-on. So we've hired most of our positions right now. We do have a number of maternity leaves coming next year. So we're in the process of trying to fill the last 2 of those. So
Do we know how long those are gonna be? Are they full year, partial year?
right now they are partial years. One of them will be carried over from the summer, and one of them will be starting in October, I believe. And it is what it is at that point in time. So that is our 6th grade special education and 8th grade special education. This year 6th grade special educator, and this year 8th grade special educator.
So the music.
And Valerie Thomas.
She's in July going into the school year, and then Stephanie is September going into the school year. And
Jessica is
October.
And
those are the delivery dates.
Yeah.
Yes, those are the wishful
ETAs.
And how long those goes in the world of is whatever they turn out to be, right? It's one of those life-changing events that you do what you do.
So you're recruiting for
So we're looking for, I think we're still looking for a music person, and we're gonna be looking for a special education person. We've hired one special education person to take on one of the maternity leave.
So you hire those people for a 1-year assignment? Or just
No, just maternity leave, so it's a long-term sub.
Is it hard to find those kind of people?
It's difficult. The challenge is, if someone's looking for a long-term sub position now, they're probably looking for a full-time position.
Right. Yeah.
So it's nice that we've signed them on and that we have a contract, but if they get a full-time position, they could just let us know that that's not the case.
Well, I've done a little singing personally, so if you want me to help with the music teacher.
Absolutely. Don't be surprised.
The piano and
Don't be surprised.
can't be that hard, right?
Can't be that hard. Just use 44.
A couple of things. So David alluded to that we had West Ed in for a visit. They're the consulting group that we hired to help us, just do a review of our special education service and structures and delivery. So they were in here. We had a number of small group interviews with our faculty and staff. They're reviewing our financial documents. They're reviewing IEPs and other documents just to get a good sense so they can give us some input. And it'll help all of us, and it'll hopefully guide Lori as we look to where we are and where we're moving towards. Matt mentioned the DC trip. Yesterday we had our Lillian Award. I don't know, maybe you may or may not be familiar with the Lillian Award. We don't give out many awards in Carlisle, so we have 2 awards. We have a citizenship award that we're giving out at graduation tomorrow night, and we have the Lillian Award. The Lillian Award is Davida Fox Melanson, previous superintendent of schools, established it back in 2004. It's named for her mom, Lillian Eisenberg. It really is designed to recognize, those people in our community who are just super kind and caring and supportive and positive and just really uplifting. It's always wonderful because when you make the announcement, we have our middle school students there and they just really, they're elated.
Excited.
So I'm pleased it was Mimi Gleason was the recipient of the faculty, because we recognize the faculty and staff member and then a student. And then Haley Hicks in 6th grade, she got it as a student, and it was a great atmosphere. So it's nominations. Yep. So students and faculty can nominate an adult or a student, and we had a record number of nominations because it was online this year. It was a little. You still have to put a little effort into it because you got to write it why you nominate those people. So we had a record number of people who were nominated, and that was wonderful. And then the commissioners, we have the district commissioners. That's myself, Amy Karen, and Sue Ross. We take those nominations and we kind of look at them and judge them and make determinations. So the 2 people who received them had multiple nominations. And
Is it always a 6th grader?
It seems to be, right? So it's not for 8, it's for 5 through 7. And that's the way it's designed, 5th grade through 7th grade. It's not for an 8th
You
grade.
get the citizen one at the graduation.
Yeah, so in the 3 years I've been here, it's been, a 6th grader each time.
Interesting. That's great.
So that was wonderful. That's always a good time. So tomorrow we have graduation, tomorrow evening. It is indoors. It looks like we're going to have torrential rain all day long, so we'll be indoors. But on our way out,
scalping tickets.
On our way out, we can look at the mulch. I got the mulch looks sprayed out front. So we'll see if we can get
They're spreading mulch.
get a simulcast set up in the cafeteria so that if there are people that can't make it into
No, they can't be in the cafeteria because the cafeteria is all set up for
the
reception.
reception.
But I
have to go over to Union Hall.
I heard that there's
Give Rick McDonald a call.
a waiting list this morning.
Okay.
That there are enough tickets to fill the to cover the
yes,
rooms? Okay.
and I gave up 1 ticket.
Oh, you're such a good egg.
We'll get as many people into that as we can. It should be great.
So I would like to recognize that Melinda graciously suggested that the 3 school committee members with 8th grade graduates be the ones to participate in the diploma service, and that's very nice of her. So then the challenge is, how do you divide that? And thanks to Nancy, I think from number 1, Margot Angelino, down to number 24, Liam James Graham, will be Sarah's pleasure to give. And then I will take over with my daughter's good friend Maya Hamilton and take it on through Samantha Way Modell.
Yay.
And then Eva, you will pick up with Nora Lee Moulton. And number 2 on that list is Ariana Mustafi, on the way, all the way to the end. And then
That works out perfect.
Perfect. I think this
Yep.
is wonderful.
Good idea, Melinda.
Yep, thank you very much.
Well, I mean, this is really great. There's 3.
Right. So you'll have to help us with logistics. What time do you have to be there? And
I think you'll be there, right? Like,
no, what
Yeah,
time?
you'll be there.
Do we have to be there early to rehearse? Or?
I mean, the kids are rehearse. No, just make sure there's a pause
rehearsing with them. You have to watch Sarah.
I will, okay. I will call, I'll just invite you up.
Okay.
Because I'll be there giving out, and then you just go up and you just shake hands.
No, that part I know.
So
Shake it.
Jim will shake their hand first, give them the
No,
diploma.
I've done that before.
Yeah, but they haven't.
No, I
So we will
have the
allow
honor of giving a diploma, but Matt
Okay,
will be,
good.
Matt will also be on stage,
Uh-huh.
shaking hands.
Shaking
You
hands.
can hug, it's okay to hug your daughter.
What, for
You
their
can hug anybody you want. Well, ask first, ask first.
Is this okay?
That's what they teach us in Challenge.
The photographer is taking pictures of every kid getting their diploma. At what point in the receiving
Jim's
line of
handshake.
people do they?
They're taking a picture with Jim.
I think the first.
Jim?
Yeah.
Jim?
I
With
might want to
Nara?
reconsider that then, maybe someone else.
Oh,
will give-
come on.
No, I'm just kidding, but yeah, so I'll have the diplomas and I'll give the diploma, we'll shake hands.
Yeah.
And so there'll be a shot then.
Okay.
But it does go, it does move
Yeah,
like
it's
pretty
moving.
fast. So when there's at those points, when there's the change, you just like pause, give a pause or something.
Yeah.
Or figure out how to do that to make sure that
Someone there to take it, because it's
I'll
first
probably
Jim,
tell-
then you.
I'll
Yeah.
ask Matt,
No, but
someone is gonna
there's
have to
the
remember.
photographer
Yeah,
coming.
somebody
You want this
Just
list?
take pictures.
I
that-
know.
Yeah.
You
They're
want
gonna
this,
take Jim
Yeah, I'll take that.
with the,
Yeah.
make sure you
so
because
just
you
in
get
case
to
you
show it
can't
there.
switch with Jim,
This is,
Oh.
you're next to get the handshake.
Wait, you wanna switch with me and give the diploma? That's fine.
I don't know, I didn't say, she said that, I didn't.
She said that. Wait a
I'll
minute.
give everyone the wrong ones.
Or you know what, we'll stop, we'll all get close and take a
Just
picture.
for your daughter. You can give your daughter.
Oh, you mean, for that to switch places, oh,
Yeah.
Think about it, we'll see.
We'll have to all-
I just have to remember when the change takes place.
I know, too
That's-
much
that's the
choreography
key.
sounds hard.
I'll see
All right.
what happens in practice with you.
Other than that, we've had just a plethora of end of the year activities. We've had the band and chorus concerts we heard about earlier. 7th grade had the big lip sync, which is always wildly entertaining. K1, 2, 3 all had their end of the year activities taking place, including today the Popsicle Girl. I don't know if anyone was ever involved in Popsicle Boy.
The popsicles on the plaza.
Yep, they're, no, they did
What is
last.
They already did that. Yeah.
We had the elementary, middle school field days, 4th grade science museum trip, middle school talent show, 1st grade to the Stone Zoo. In the meantime, we also had the kindergarten screening, so we're preparing for next year's students, and a number of other activities. One other thing I did want to mention, we have set everyone up with a Gmail account, like a district Gmail account. I know, Christine, you mentioned that we wanted to use maybe a Gmail team site for the policy
Which we
subcommittee.
can't, I've moved on.
We can't?
No, because of open meeting law.
Okay, I didn't know if it was just the subcommittee could use that. Cindy said, no?
No, no, but I've resolved it to, I haven't talked with Sarah yet, but I'll do that in my little report. But I would like one, because right now the Facebook account is under my.
Absolutely.
So what I'd like to do is have an account that I can pass along to this committee when I'm done, so that it's not attached to me. So if I had a Gmail account to set up that Facebook account, that would be great.
Okay. I can do that.
Is it a Google Suite account or it's a Gmail?
It's a Gmail that gives you access to a suite.
Yeah.
So the @ is at Carlisle
yeah.
schoolcommittee.com, okay. So it'll be, like, if we put it on our phone, then it becomes in a locked, lockbox. If you put a G Suite thing, it stays segregated from your other Gmail stuff. It goes into a lock, all the files they go into, yeah.
So is there a special way to set that up?
No, just says, like, you can't, it's so that you can't extract stuff or, you know, that's not supposed to come out.
But it's not just a regular Gmail, it's not a regular Google account, it sounds like it's something.
Well, G Suite is different than a Gmail account.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the G Suite account?
What?
What's a G Suite account?
The G is the Google Suite. It's the one that's used if you have an organization or a company or whatever, and you want to keep files proprietary to that entity, right? And you want to have your own @ whatever designation. It's just I had to set something up with a G Suite account last year, and it was.
All right. So I might be thinking, I'm thinking of the G Suite.
So is it a good thing or a bad thing?
That's the thing you want to do though?
It's all into that.
Yeah, but it's a little bit different.
Scott will know what to do.
It sounds like.
Oh, he'll definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys should talk about that, because maybe that's what.
But we also
what you wanna do.
can use them because of.
No,
the-
I would,
I
Okay.
get multiple
if you wanted to
email
have it, that's
addresses
great.
for that.
But I just need to.
Oh, you
get
can get as
the
many, you
accounts
can
off
put
of
as
my
many
name.
people in there as you
Can you
want.
put it in there? There's already a.
So what,
The reason that companies do it is because if you get deauthorized, right, you can't take that file. You can't share outside
Oh, really?
our group easily.
We gotta figure
Yeah.
out. Okay.
And so it's to be able to keep information proprietary to the entity that it's involved in.
You better ask that question to Nancy.
I mean, the Board of Selectmen has set up, you know, their individual selectmen email addresses so that they don't have to use their personal email for town business.
Yeah.
And that should be an option available to school committee members as well. If you don't want to use your personal email for town business, you could get a,
Like the PTO
Yeah,
just
so the
so
PTO
people
does
know
it.
that.
Yeah, with just a Gmail, so you have like Carlisle Library, whatever library PTO.
At gmail.com.
Yeah, at gmail.com. The difference would be if you have, you know, share at carlisleSchoolCommittee.com versus having Carlisle School Committee chair at gmail.com. That's that's the difference between the G Suite versus having a
So
Google
which way
Drive.
should we go? I guess I'm confused as to.
Well, so what we can do is just give you a Carlisle Schools email address.
That's good.
And then we
That
just
would be
use
the
that.
easiest, right?
And then we
forward
can just
it.
have a Google Drive that we share. Like a
Yes.
Right, that's
But
what
we
I
can't
think
really
that-
share
No,
it
we
too much
can't
because
share
of
it.
open meeting
Okay,
law.
we can't share
So
it.
you just use
So
the
the
email
chairperson would
address.
access it to get all the correspondence and everything that's there and respond from there or contact whoever reaches out to us there.
See, I don't know.
No, we're talking about two different things, I believe. There's the public address that people will send comments that we can have whatever protocol. Nancy gets them, gives them to the chair, whatever. But I think what Sarah's talking about is what Concord has, where everybody has a CPS or Carlisle K-12 Mass US address, and you can auto forward it if you want.
The
or
school
delete it.
committee?
Yeah, you
You
can,
must
I
have
never
that.
had one.
but you
Well,
can if you
it's
want to.
transparent because it goes right to, for me at least, goes right to my
Cool.
regular one. But you can have documents, if say Jim sends out school improvement plan, it's a document that
Yeah, see, I don't agree
That's
that
not
it's an
open
open
meeting
meeting
law.
violation
That's just
if you
the
disseminate
committee.
No,
policies
dissemination
or
is, well, okay.
But
so we disseminate, you know, documents
Right,
via
we
email.
submit this, the
with
package
something
comes out.
coming for the meeting, it's gonna be discussed at the meeting.
Right.
You can't have
It's not gonna
collaborative work on
But
that.
that's, you were thinking about using it for the policy subcommittee, I thought.
I was at one point, but you guys
You can't.
pointed out to me the open meeting law, so I've solved it.
Right. But if documents reside, Google Docs or whatever, if documents come that way as opposed, you were advocating that last year, right? You get the regional agenda and it's got all these attachments.
I know I'm gonna tell Nancy all about that. Yes, I think that's a more efficient way to go in terms of paper.
Right.
But we can do that when it's not 10.
Okay. All right, good, well, that'll be okay. All about improving efficiency when we can. Did you have anything else on the superintendent?
that's all.
Did you want to talk about the visioning committee at all, or is that for another meeting?
Not this time.
Okay. did you want to talk about the policy subcommittee?
Briefly, I'll just say, and I sent it to Sarah today, so she hasn't even had a chance to look at it, I'm sure. But basically what I've done is I've set up a list of all of the policies that we have. Well, you guys gave us the list. We got the list from Nancy, I think, last meeting. But I've made a document that we'll send out at some point that has links in the document to the current CPS policy and the MASC version of that policy, so that anyone who wants to come to a subcommittee meeting about the policies can go in advance, click twice, and see what's available. And then what I'd like to do is have Nancy come to the meetings with a Word document of that policy. She will edit as we go through the meeting, and then bring that edited version with the edit notes, the edit tracking, to this meeting, so that everybody can look at the tracking, and we can discuss it and then vote on it the next meeting. What I'd like to do is see if we can do this in 2 or 3 meetings, get it all done up front, so that then we can just let Nancy parse them out throughout the year.
Right, so, okay, so for your group to work on 2 or 3 meetings, and then, then we could follow along with our meetings. If there's a light agenda, just put in.
Yeah, we can plow through as many as you want.
Yeah.
But the hard part about it is, we don't usually vote on something at the meeting that's presented. So if you present 5 this meeting, because we had extra time this meeting, you may not be able to approve 5 at the next meeting. So I just want to be conscious of that. And we can learn as we go, but I think that this would be a good way to make it easy for the people participating in the subcommittee meeting, and then Nancy can just feed them through on our monthly meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Okay.
Eva has.
I have some updates, some regional updates.
Okay.
Coming from the region. So, when it comes to region, the region has gone through the Western evaluation. All the elementary, middle school, and high school has gone through evaluation that was completed. Teachers and administration took a year to work right away on addressing the areas of need and improvement. They came up with a school improvement plan, which they are implementing it right now, starting now, and it will be throughout the summer, starting this year. They are talking about vertical, horizontal, systemic changes in how they support student learning and their needs, as they are. So for us, for our district, for our Carlisle students, probably the most important thing to know is that all the high schoolers, as they're coming into CCHS, they are being tested and screened for any need, areas of need in their education, and they're also looking at that tier system to address, to put kids in, to get them the help in a particular area, whether it's reading, writing, math, or they're looking, I don't think they are looking as much, I don't remember, we might.
Social emotion.
But they are doing on social emotion, not so much on executive functioning. But I don't remember how much they will be focusing on that one. So then they will be taking the students and placing them with, providing them with help, then reevaluating and seeing where these students fall.
I thought that they were doing that this year.
We're doing this year. They are definitely ramping up the support systems. They're deciding where and how to best administer the help, like what programs to use. They're bringing different programs. When we're talking about vertical and horizontal changes, as similarly to what we're looking here at Carlisle School, they're basically communicating vertically. They're communicating between all these different grades of the kids coming in. So the teachers will see, okay, we have a student that has some reading or writing, for example. So how can we make sure that we continue supporting this kid as it goes from 9th grade to 10th grade to 11, as it continues through the education, so that doesn't get lost. And how that plan, how whatever works for that kid can be continued throughout the kid's education, so it doesn't constantly change. So that's one thing that they're doing. And then they're horizontally, they're talking about communicating, for example, the language, reading, writing. So their LA classes, coordinating it, for example, with even science classes, because the kids do have to write lab reports. So how do we support the kids? How do we teach them paragraph writing? If we teach them in this class, how would that translate, and what corrections do we have to make to the program when they are being seen in social studies or science classes? So they're doing a big restructuring of their system. They definitely had a lot of areas that they found that things can improve, and they're working on this right now. They want to make sure that those things get addressed right away. Changes happen right away. So that's so that's one part. So my goal for as a regional representative will be to see what the region is doing, what they're doing in Concord, and bring that information and share it with administration, school committee, and parents, just so we can sort of prepare our own students and know where they are according to what's happening on the other side. As it seems, for example, there was one of the examples of that. There is a great program that the students truly enjoy at CCHS, the Rivers and Revolution program, and Concord has had some CCHS students, Concord Carlisle High School students, come in and run this program for their middle schools. So that sounds like, and the kids, the middle schoolers loved it. The high schoolers, they gave them opportunity to build some leadership skills, and but we were not part of that.
Well, can I interject? I did speak to Mike. He's your buddy, right, Sarah? Isn't he a childhood friend of yours, Mike Goodwin?
Mm-hmm.
So Mike is the heart and soul of that program. And he's very excited to come up here. I don't know if he's reached out to you, but he's very excited to bring that program here. So the specifics at Concord is that they trialed it with the 5th grade, which is interesting that they reached that deep back to that lower level, because 5th grade is still elementary at Concord. But in any case, I don't know whether it fits. It seems like, to me, it may fit better in the middle, higher grades. But regardless, you should. My advice is we can do that introduction, or you can just reach out to Mike.
I can reach out to him.
And Mary Beth Stevenson, who is of course the wife of Doug Stevenson, a long-time scoutmaster and selectman and everything else. She is on that committee. She's a teacher in middle school. I don't know. She teaches in the Concord system. She's in that committee as well. So anyway,
what's the committee?
Well, I'm mixing something up. Yeah. Never mind. But Mike Goodwin would, love to talk about that. So.
That's great. But it looks like we can definitely coordinate some of the programs that they are building there, and see if, especially when they are successful, or they will like to bring them here.
Yeah, I think that's just one of my notes. Is we should probably set up some time this summer. Concord Middle School, the high school, and get together and make sure we have, we understand what they're doing, and if there's opportunities for us to do some things in line with that.
Right. The reference I mixed up, Mary Beth Stevenson's on the Writing Across the Curriculum Committee, which I know Kristen, is that her name? Herbert? What's her first
Kristen.
name? Yeah. Kristen. She has reached out to you, right? To Marcel Pixley. Because that's sort of what you were talking about as
Right,
well,
right, right.
right? That they
Yep.
emphasis in writing across all the disciplines.
And all the subject areas, yeah.
And the interesting factoid that they presented is nationally 15% of the day is spent writing, 15% of the school day. But 2/3 of that is copying. So really only like 5% is actual writing. And they have this whole program, again, I think you're familiar with it.
Yeah, they've shared the
best practice
presentation,
stuff.
they've shared that with us, yeah.
So they're taking their, again, because they do consider themselves a single district, much to sometimes our annoyance, but nevertheless,
Get used to it.
they look, anyway, it's a different topic, but they do look at the experience of as you probably did when you were at Harvard, right? The high school tools and now pushing them back down into the 8th grade or whatever, and there's no reason why they wouldn't do it on both sides.
So I'll make a point to get in touch with them the next week and set up some time and make sure we're
Yes.
we're all on the same
And they're
page.
going through all these changes, so their plan is still crystallizing. So also I have attended. I've also attended the SEPAC board meeting. I was voted in as their liaison for the high school, so I'll be happy to come in and report on what happens at the CPAC. It is a very active, growing committee.
Led by one of our Carlisle residents.
Yes.
Who's leading?
Carol.
Over Concord, right?
Yeah, yes. They are planning a couple great parent talks in the fall. Educational ones for parents. They're very inclusive. One of the nice notes to find out is that their website they have a wonderful website, very informative, well designed, and it's been it's been used by other towns as a resource because they did such a nice job. So I'll be happy to.
So I'll connect you with Lori because our CPAC is really just
Starting.
kind of started forming this year. So it'd be nice to connect you and Lori will be supporting that as we move forward.
That would be great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple more bullets on the regional. So as we alluded to earlier, it had been a goal of the regional committee to evaluate whether the regional agreement should be opened up and cleaned up. And so they brought in this MARS, it's called, the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools. It's kind of like the MASC, or the MASC of regions, right? Mm-hmm. So they gave a presentation which was, pretty perfunctory in my opinion, but it was like the mechanics of how you would open, if you were to open it up, and you have to appoint all these joint boards, and then you have to do all this outreach, and you have to have votes by both sides. It's this long, prolonged practice. And Sarah Lyons, is that her name? The reporter for the Mosquito. I think she reported it pretty accurately.
Sarah Hart.
Sarah Hart, sorry. Who's Sarah Lyons?
No, you're thinking of Helen Lyons.
Oh, Sarah Hart accurately reported it, in my opinion. And as it was reported, I challenged them. And I was fortunate that Melissa had given me a lot of good information. But there really is we're not out of compliance. The complaint was that, we made amendments, we didn't incorporate them into the body. It was written on a typewriter, so I asked, well, can you do those things without opening the agreement? Oh, sure you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not an issue.
Okay, so
their big things, they had two big things. One is, one I'll say first, which is maybe that, and this came somewhere, and I'm not going to say in a public meeting where, but why do we have 2 out of 7 reps when we're only, we should have 1 point something reps? And, really? So I think that, I don't even want to.
Someone leave an arm at home.
Right.
So, yeah, right.
And then, my comment was, we'll be back to the reconstruction, like 3/5 of a person or whatever.
Yeah.
But the other one, which really is the one I think they're interested in, is the assessment ratios jump up and down and it's hard to handle, and should we have a smoothing? But I'm doing some modeling, I've got cohort data from both sides, and I don't think at the end of the day, personally, and I made this statement yesterday, it's not a big deal. We need to educate the FinComs about what's coming. Valentine has proven to us that there's not so much movement in the cohorts over the years. And I told them that I can predict right now with 90% accuracy what the ratio will be in 10 years. I know that.
So they should be able to do
And
budget.
it gets more and more fidelity as you get closer. So I really just think the FinComs are being lazy by saying, oh, the ratio went up. Well, okay, but you can predict it. So anyway, so that's sort of a little mini campaign of mine. The other report out I have is that I did participate in Wayne Davis's conclave or meeting about how to stream lessons learned from the four-day town meeting.
Oh my gosh, it was
3
3 days.
3-day town meeting. And,
So just like Concord.
he raised some there were very good points discussed, which he summarized in an email, which I'm happy to forward if you are interested. One material to us would be some interest, not universal, of a separate presentation of the school budget as compared with having FinCom do the whole budget. We've debated that many years we debate that point back and forth. Generally, when I had, my position had been, it's FinCom's job to roll the budgets up. And we don't want to start, then everybody has to produce their own budget, it's FinCom's job. So, and I still kind of feel that way, but, there is an argument to be made, 2/3 of the budget is a specialized thing, and why wouldn't the thing get its own? So there's no action on that, it's just a discussion. But there were discussions about how can we, streamline it? How can we get more participation? Electronic voting is one of the, can you participate remotely and vote remotely, which will be explored. Saturday meeting, people don't, Saturday meetings, no, I don't think so. But one suggestion is have a fall town meeting as a regular meeting and try to clear some of we get such an overhang of issues, 40 issues, and we can't possibly plow through them all. But maybe you could clear some of the underbrush in one day, So anyway, these are interesting. At least I think it's a good thing for Wayne to
it was a nice
lead
idea. I talked to him the day after, so.
examine. So that's what I got. Thanks.
Okay. I'm just thinking about the budget, the budget questions. It definitely came out from the town meeting that it was, people might have missed seeing our communication that goes out in the mail, so I think that
I think we got that message loud and clear. We're going to make a flyer.
Continue to do that, I think that.
We are going to make a nice flashy, Susan Prey as her final swan song, she can make a big four-color
the last one that was done, it was one page, front and back, and it had a lot of information on it. It was very clear. I think it gives residents a good sense of what.
My error. That's all on me, because you asked me and I said, I didn't know.
Well, I also think this year in particular, it was evident that a lot of seniors participating in town meeting, that this is mail. And they like mail.
Yeah.
And they like information.
Right.
And so we denied them a feature of the whole town process.
I think that, and it was a small thing to, but it impacts in a big way. I think we should definitely make sure we do it.
Yep.
And I think the other thing that we're going to need to do this year is to collaborate more with Board of Selectmen and talk more about school budget, more specifically about.
Yeah, we tried, right?
Well, I think there's a component of education with our own Board of Selectmen about what, what's happening at the school. So, okay, thank you for that. I know it's getting late. I did want to bring up this, on the community center committee, there's a grant that we have received from the Chenal where everybody, I think, knows about this. We have an architectural firm working with the town to come up with some concepts for a community center, and they have come up with 3 different sketches that include a pool, and
incorporates the Mosley Goff property and is part of Banta Davis land. And that's, part of the reason why there's a school committee representative on this committee is because of the fact that they're looking at the Banta land, but also because, the community center will serve the same population that we're serving, students in the community. So it's a fun committee actually, because thinking about what the community center could offer for Carlisle is, is a fun thing. So it hasn't been very time consuming. I just haven't been able to attend a lot of the meetings because I've had work conflicts because they've been during the day. So I wanted to ask if there was anybody who would be interested in participating in that. Being the liaison for.
You don't want to be the liaison, is that what you're saying?
I haven't been able to attend enough of the meetings for the community center. The group working on the concepts for a community center in town. Okay, maybe I'll ask that not at 10 o'clock.
I will say, I'm glad to hear that they're considering a pool because we do give our pool to the summer camp every year.
Mm-hmm.
But usually it's like 3 weeks, and I emailed Holly yesterday and said, what weeks do you need for the pool this year? She goes, all of them. Seems like the volunteers have melted away. I don't know if they.
Yeah, no, I think a pool would be great, just a place for people to gather in town. That's why I think obviously community center would be an expensive endeavor, but there's going to have to be a private fundraising component to that.
Yeah.
If it's going to ever be, if it's ever going to be. Okay. Anything else for committee reports? Warrants.
I have 3 warrants to read.
Okay.
Accounts payable warrant number 8619 for $148,789.05. Payroll warrant number 8019 for $432,706.28, and another payroll warrant number 8419 for $281,892.79.
Are these the summer payrolls, or are they just?
The 400,000 was a lump sum payroll. The other one was a regular budget.
Yep, right. Okay. Does that 400,000 one take us through the August?
24 teachers. That's just 24 teachers getting all their pay when they walk out the door on Friday.
Those who opt for that.
Right.
Others just get their paycheck as they normally would.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Action items, there were none, as far as I know. Citizens' comments. Cynthia? Do you have anything for us?
Very amazing that he like this.
Well, at least only once a month.
Okay. Do I need to have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Do we need executive
I'd
session?
like to make a motion to move to executive, adjourn and move to executive session. I just have the one note, then.
For the purpose number 7, to comply with or act under
Do it in
the
July.
Yeah.
Said you want to do it in July.
Yeah. I mean,
Do
what
I
do you
do
have
the
to
executive
do?
session? It's 2. Okay, let's do it in July. So that means that the open meeting is adjourned.
All right, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Sorry for so long.